And there it is. We live, man. What's going on with you, brother?
What's going on, sir? What's popping?
Oh man, it's been a long time coming, bro. It's been a
It's all
long
your
time
fault.
coming.
It's all your fault.
I mean,
All
it
your
is.
fault.
No argument for me. You know what I'm saying? I got to take that L, man. So it's crazy because we did the last session of the breakdown, and then Christmas came around, and then just family this, family that, just a whole bunch of stuff kept getting in the way. So it took us a while to get back in here, but we here though.
We are here.
That's the main thing.
We're back in these YouTube streets.
Back in these YouTube streets, man. Doing these breakdowns. So what I'm gonna do is actually, I guess we should probably share the link, man. And I'm gonna grab me a slice of pizza. I've been screaming all day. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna go ahead and grab me a slice of pizza. You know what I'm saying? So give me like 1 second. You know what I mean? And we're gonna do that. And then in the meantime, we got some people in the chat room already. Okay. So what up, chat room folks? Go ahead and announce yourselves so we can give you all a shout out, say what's up and all that. And then let me grab my slice of pizza. Matter of fact, if you're out there and you got some food that you want to share, I'm saying you want to join this pizza party that we got popping off, go ahead and throw a 1 in the chat.
So who we got in the check-in? We got Tyler Lott, we got Beatrice Wells, we got Braz Emmy. We got Lance Woodley in the check-in. What's happening? What's good? For those who don't know, I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? What's going on, God's child? We out here, we chilling. We're just waiting for Adam to get his pizza. The man still thinks he's in college, cramming for exams, late night pizza run. You know what I mean? The t-shirt was popping, was good. You know what I mean? We definitely appreciate everybody's support, and as we do these breakdowns, it's definitely been a fun experience for me. And I think I could say so for Adam as well. It's been great just working with Adam on these videos. Oh, we got a special guest apologist in the building.
Special guest apologist.
Nice.
I went for a slice of pizza, came back with a baby. This is my son Maxwell. So this right here, this is my excuse for all those breakdown sessions that I missed. I'm throwing the baby. I can't get mad at a guy.
You throwing the baby under the bus, bro? What's going on?
Under the bus, man. This joker right here, man. I'm about to call him a knucklehead. I'm not gonna call him a knucklehead. This joker right here, man. You can't be mad at a guy with a baby in his arms. You know what I'm saying? So
no, you can't. It's against the rules. It's against the rules.
Against the rules. You know what I'm saying? So hey, this is back to back to his ball.
Yeah. We got here. We got King Charles. Yeah, trained him early. No doubt. We got the man with one of the best libraries you're going to find on the internet, my man, MJ Jackson.
MJ Action Jackson.
Stay with them books. Heavy. Heavy.
Hey, you know what? Matter of fact, shout out to MJ, man, because some of the material that I'm actually covering tonight and that I've used actually throughout this breakdown session has come through some sources that I was able to get through him, man. So definitely shout out to him for the assist on that, Jank. King Charles said train him up early. Yeah, that's right, brother. That's right. You know what I'm saying? Got my pizza in the house, my cold pizza.
Yeah, this guy still think you're in college, bro? Having pizza late at night? What's going on?
Little do y'all know, actually, Vocab Malone. I'm calling Vocab Malone out, man. I got to call out Vocab.
Apologetic beef. Let's go.
We get me and Vocab got real beef right now. So a couple weeks ago, we were supposed to be doing a live, right? Actually, it's been a couple months ago now. We're supposed to be doing a live. I'm like, yo, Vocab, I've been hustling all day, man. I'm trying to get in there with you, bro. But I haven't had time to eat, man. I got this cheeseburger. I want to scarf down right quick. And it was like, yo, you mind if I go ahead and do that? He's like, nah, bro, that's unprofessional. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, where, bro? It's like that. I mean, I know you big time and all. I mean, I know you that dude and all, man. I can't get a burger right quick. You know what I'm saying? And he's like real serious about it, Joe.
Bro, ministry comes first, man. Ministry comes
my first. Channel. If I want to eat a slice of pizza,
oh wow, rebellion. Look at that. Look at that. In his face.
Eat a slice of pizza and drink some Red Bull.
Wow.
To get me going.
The frat boy breakfast. Look at that.
My wife is giving me the side eye right now, so I guess I'm supposed to chill out.
You look crazy.
I'm looking crazy. This is how we do around here, yo. This is how we do. So, all right. So I guess we should probably get down to business. Oh man, yeah, definitely. Matter of fact, before we start, y'all definitely hit the like button, hit the share button. This is actually going to be probably the last of the breakdowns that we do as far as the Bantu and Jabari debates. But this is certainly not going to be the last time that me and the BK Apologists team up. BK Apologists is that dude. We family, man. We're gonna be making it happen for a long time.
Yes, sir.
And matter of fact, I need to grab my phone so I can share the link. Hey, BK, you want to tell them about some of the debates coming up that we're gonna break down with? And I'm just gonna
absolutely.
Hey, y'all share the link as well. I'll be right back.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody in the chat, please share so everybody can see what's going down. So yeah, rumor has it, well, actually it's been confirmed, there will be another debate in March. Our good Dr. Bantu will be debating with Tazariak from the ISUPK. And okay, that's interesting. And it's actually a double hitter. It's going to be Jabari Osaze debating Garfield Reed on whether or not Christianity comes from or plagiarized from Kemet, which is interesting that those two individuals will be having that particular debate, but it is what it is. And then the second part will be Dr. Bantu with Tazariak. And the subject matter is Christianity good for Black and brown folk? And the second, if I recall, is Christianity the white man's religion? So that's going down in March. I forgot what I think towards the end of the month. It's going to be in Brooklyn. It's going to be in my backyard. I'm 20 minutes away from that joint, so I will definitely be in the building. I'm like 4 train stops away from there. It's crazy. So I'm in there. So
that's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, I plan on being there as well. Definitely for that. And Bantu's he out here getting it, man. He's not playing around, yo. He's not playing around. He was just on Saneter, I guess maybe a week or two ago, something like that.
No, it was a while ago. It was about a month.
Has it been a month already?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess definitely, man. To keep that brother in prayer, man, because he's out here getting putting in work for the kingdom, man.
He was just on June 3. He was just on my channel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true. Yeah. Tell him about that, man, and then we'll get into the content. But yeah, tell him about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, had a chance to sit down, chop it up with the good doctor. We all know that his specialty is ancient African Christianity, but I wanted to zero in on ancient Nubian Christianity. Just to specify and get into the meat and potatoes of that particular region of the continent and how they got down with their Christianity. And, the doctor gets busy. I just give him a question and I get out the way. And he spits some gems. You know what I mean? So,
people don't realize, man, Bantu, he can give a whole lecture
off the head,
off the dome,
off the head. It's crazy,
straight up. I mean, I'm talking about this. I met him. We both met him in person. You know what I'm saying? I sat down and eat with him at lunch one day. I can't remember what we asked him, but all it took was we just lobbed him the question, and he just that was it. You know what I'm saying? Like he can, that brother can go, man. That brother can go. So y'all definitely check that out on BK Apologist channel. Yo, what up, Pastor Tim in the building? What's happening? Shout out to Pastor Tim. I just had him on the show last week, was it? You know what I'm saying? So man, all these weeks are running together, man. That shows you kind of where I've been at, man. I've been all over the place. But
look what King Charles says. IUIC has infiltrated my little city of, how you say it, Saginaw. Folks shook. Pastors have no idea what's going on here. Wow, that's crazy.
Wow, man. I was just on the phone earlier today. Somebody contacted me from, actually, I'm not even sure if I should say where he's from, but let's just say it's a West African country. You know what I'm saying? And he was talking about how people are trying to go back to West Africa. This, I guess, is this some sort of enlightenment or awakening or whatever you want to call it, and they're actually bringing with them like some of this conscious community stuff, and it's having an impact over there. I mean, he's concerned that things will start flaming up. So we talked about collabing or whatever, but this. So I said that to say, this is not just a local thing. This is not something that's just going on in, Saginaw. We need to, we need brothers in Saginaw, getting busy with the gospel. We need people, everywhere. This thing is this apologetics thing is serious. I'm saying wherever the church is, wherever the gospel is being preached, we need to have Christians who are equipped to get out there and mix it up with these different worldviews and make it happen.
Yes, sir.
Which brings us back to the whole point of this breakdown. Why we're here right now. You know what I mean? So, I guess if you want, man, we can go ahead and launch into the infamous question.
The Adam Coleman question. Do you have it queued up or?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I have it queued up. And so for anybody who's maybe hasn't been along with us, I don't want to assume, but what we've been doing is these breakdowns. We've been flip-flopping between my channel and BK Apologist channel, and we've been working our way through the debate that happened back in October between Brother Jabari and Vince Bantu. We've been just kind of going point by point. And so, one of the things that we talked about, two things that we talked about actually is number one, I was there at the debate as well as, so was, BK Apologies also. And, they had a Q&A and I was able to get a question in that, ruffled some feathers. You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
it come off a little sharp. But,
man, listen. I've said it before. It's definitely one of the highlights of the debate because I didn't see it coming. You know what I mean? And I was in the front of you towards the right. And I knew you was going to ask a question. I definitely knew the apologist in the building was going to get it in. But man, the laser focus and the intensity of that question, I think just everybody, you just heard this, ooh, and like you had to be in the audience. Everybody's like, whoa. Like it got real heavy out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So
let's go to the videotape, man. What was going on? I'm about to put this Patreon link.
Shout out to Cherry Love. What's good, Cherry?
Cherry in the building. This is the Cherry in the building. That's what's up, man. Somebody just texted me. I'm not even sure what they're talking about. Somebody had to get back with him. Anyway, let's go ahead to the videotape. And I'm a little rusty here, y'all. It's been a couple weeks, so y'all gotta bear with me. I don't know what I'm about to share right now.
Lord,
pray it's the right thing.
Like baby pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Grandma. Okay. Y'all see that?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, so it's been posted. All right, let me turn my volume all the way up so we can hear it. And we're gonna give it a run. The infamous question. Dun, dun, dun.
Brother Adam. Yeah, let's go. I'm trying to squeeze this into that 10 seconds right quick. So my question is for Brother Jabari. The fact is that the vast majority of modern scholarship on the historicity of Jesus are in sharp disagreement with you, in that the scholars from various worldviews affirm that Jesus was a historical person and not a myth. And that's based on sources like Tacitus, Josephus, Suetonius, Pliny the Younger, so forth. My question is, while the claims you made are popular regurgitations of the debunked Zeitgeist documentary, can you provide primary source evidence and scholarship to support your poorly evidenced claims that Jesus is being merely mythical? Thanks.
Can I say something? First of all,
I don't know if you saw me. I'm wearing the brown Yeti fitted, and when you said that, I heard it for the first time. I went, "Oh,
yo!"
I
was just in the moment, man.
The whole clip, son. What was that?
Yo. All right. So
the whole clip, son.
But I had 10 seconds. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, so when people, so
you maximize your time, brother. You definitely maximize your time. Absolutely, sir.
I was trying to, because what happened was, I wrote down my question ahead of time. I know myself. I know I can be long with it. And for anybody who's been following along, with this breakdown, says y'all know I'm long winded too. So I'm like, okay, the only way I'm gonna get this question in within the 10 seconds that Eric Mason said we had to ask it in. Shout out to Pastor Eric Mason, by the way, because I think he gave me maybe about 5 extra seconds.
Yeah,
he could have chopped me on that one, but so the only way I was going to be able to get that question is if I wrote it down ahead of time, because I just know me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, now, granted, I can be real. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I should say this, maybe I shouldn't. But yeah, I did have a reason. I had a reason why I asked the question, and we'll get to it in a second. So the thing of it is, I think Bantu took a very interesting approach to answering the question of was Christianity stolen from Kemet, and addressing the whole Jesus was a myth type of a thing. He took an approach that, as we talked about in the previous breakdowns, I don't think anybody saw it coming. And I think that was kind of dope, actually, because there's no way that Jabari could have prepared for it, But what happened is that Jabari presented his case, which was just full of just ludicrous claims, you know what I'm saying? And, I think that, the conversation didn't shift back around to rebutting those claims. So the reason why I asked this question is because I wanted to make sure, what I'm saying, for anybody who ended up watching this debate, that we at least got that in there, what I'm saying, got it on tape, got it in the record, so to speak, that his claims, are indeed certainly not representative of, the weight of scholarship. You know what I'm saying? I want to make sure that was, on tape, and that he didn't slide with that. And the other thing is that, and well, maybe I'll wait maybe we'll show his response first before I get into that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But that was my thinking behind, as to why that. 'Cause actually, I had a whole nother question. If y'all think that was bad, you should. I wish I could have got the original question in. You know what I'm saying? That was actually the watered down version.
Oh man.
So the original joint would have been a whole lot worse. You know what I mean? But anyway, so the reason why I asked that question is because I wanted to challenge him on that. I wanted him to not just be able to make those zeitgeistish, pseudo, YouTube scholar claims and just have it go unchecked. So I was like, okay, well, cool. Go ahead and stand on your square, Brother Jabari, and give us, some evidence for those claims, and like I said, I mean, and we'll get back into that, but we'll get into
MJ said, bro, the room went dark.
It was funny because I threw the thank you in there at the end, and I really did mean it. It came off like I was being sarcastic, but I really was like, yeah, thank you. I really did mean that, and it's so funny because so I walked up to Jabari afterwards. You know what I'm saying, when the debate was over, and he's dapping people up and all that kind of. So I dapped him up, man. And he just kind of gave me the side eye, like, word, bro.
I see you. I see you.
I had 10 seconds. He was like, yeah, but did you have to say regurgitate? I was like, yeah. I mean, I did kind of. I threw a little hot sauce in there.
Yeah, it's a little sauce in there.
A little hot sauce.
But you know what? Big up to Jabari for being such a great sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really not taking it, like we was going after his character or anything like that. Like we're just having a vigorous debate about some very important subjects. So big up to him for being just a generally just a good dude about it. You know what I mean?
About it, man. Good dude about it. And we exchanged information. We haven't had an opportunity to actually connect since then, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? But and that's just, I mean, I'm sure he's a busy guy, and likewise here as well. But we did exchange information. And we'll probably get up. Maybe I even have him on the True ID podcast. We can have a longer discussion.
That'd be dope.
I guess I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and play his response.
No, but you got to start from your question again, though. Start from your question and his response.
All right.
You got to rewind that one time.
Rewind it back one time.
Yes, one time.
All right. Let me go ahead. Oh shoot. Let's see. All right. So we're gonna go back to the question and let it rock.
Brother Adam. Hey, how's it going? I'm trying to squeeze this into that 10 seconds right quick. So my question is for Brother Jabari. The fact is that the vast majority of modern scholarship on the historicity of Jesus are in sharp disagreement with you, in that the scholars from various worldviews affirm that Jesus was a historical person and not a myth. And that's based on sources like Tacitus, Josephus, Suetonius, Pliny the Younger, so forth. My question is, while the claims you made are popular regurgitations of the debunked Zeitgeist documentary, can you provide primary source evidence and scholarship to support your poorly evidenced claims that Jesus is being merely mythical? Thanks.
Can I say something? First of all, I did not even call Jesus a myth on this stage. Maybe he watching YouTube or something. That wasn't to... Now, I do say that Jesus is a myth. So he came here watching Sonetta saying, you know what, I'm going to get him. You're going to be disappointed. I don't have time to respond to that, brother. I'm going to tell you, Tacitus, Josephus, there are many issues with those citations. Why does a Jew call Jesus the Christ? When you look closely at it, as they now are able to do, it seems like something was erased. Eusebius was known as a well-known plagiarizer. You have to just understand that when you also see in a tradition that many of the things that are being applied to one person have happened before, older, in other places, and then this new tradition then appropriates the spaces, the traditions, the symbols. You don't have to be a zoologist to know that when it quacks, it's a duck. And so that is really what I need to say. I do not have the time to go in this extensively.
I understand.
I have done that on Saneter. So maybe you wanted to chat with me about it when you saw a video. We can still chat.
Yeah.
I did not call Jesus a myth up here. Of course I implied it. It's what I've not just implied it in other places. I have said it. I'm just saying that it's not here. And if you want me to cover that, Pastor, you're going to have to bring me back for an hour.
Okay, we'll
because I'll go through the sources. I hope you didn't think I was going to do that in 1 minute.
That's good. That's
I
good.
just gave you an example.
We're good. We're going to go to the next question. I added 5 minutes.
So I just want to say, so let's just say, let me say this right here before we get into it. So first of all, he did say, let me make sure I don't remove the wrong joint. So at first he said he didn't say it there at the event, right? But then he acknowledged it. He's like, well, yeah, I implied it. Oh, so I'm like, okay.
Well, then you said it.
All right.
It was in round 2 he did that.
Okay.
It was in round 2.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So if you implied it, then you can't, get mad with me or feel that I've done something that I'm out of step, with the conversation and dialogue that's going on by engaging something that you implied. Right. You see what I'm saying? Right. So I mean, that to me, I just thought it was kind of hilarious. I felt like he was kind of tap dancing on that one, man. I ain't gonna lie. That was the impression that I got.
Oh, big time.
Of course. I mean, I wasn't expecting the man to give a whole, lecture on the question, but I mean, he could at least, cover maybe an example or, give it. I would have taken anything, 2-minute synopsis, anything. You know what I'm saying? More so than what he did, but nevertheless, since I did ask a question and, I mean, it wasn't the time to really get into it. I feel like, this would be a good time right now to follow up and basically just, address his response to my question, when after he finally did get around to it. And also, like we talked about in the previous breakdown, I want to double back to round 2 and address directly, the some of the claims that he made about Jesus being mythological. I tried to list them all out. Like he kind of just rapid fire, shot them out. So I tried to list them all out, and I want to provide, response to each. If I miss one or whatever, then I'll just do a separate video, respond to that one. But that's kind of how we wanted to tackle it tonight, man. So if you're cool with it, then hey, I might go ahead and we can go ahead and mix it up, man. Start getting into this breakdown, brother. To
answer Kingdom Truther, the reason why he has an ankh hanging from his arm is that Jabari is a Kemetic priest. And he heads his own shrine in Harlem, New York, called the Shrine of Ma'at. So he is a actual Kemetic priest. That's why he has the ankh. So we'll put out there. Okay, cool. There it is. There it is. So I'm going to bring up, excuse me, my PowerPoint, and we can go ahead and mix it up, man. Did you want to say anything before we got into it or get into it? No, we're good. Let's rock out. Okay, cool. So my question was, related to claims that he had made in round 2. We'll show more of that in a minute. But he had made a number of claims in round 2 of this debate. Can you make it a little bigger, bro? Can you make your slide bigger? Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let me. My bad. Oh shoot! I gotta forgive me. I'm a little. Okay, here we go. Is that better? Yeah. That's good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And there we go. No. Oh yeah. Actually, that reminds me. So for some of these slides, I'm going to be quoting from
some of the Egyptian texts that he mentioned. So I'm going to provide links in the chat for anybody who may want to, bring it up on their computer while we're talking about it. And then for some of them also, well, actually for any of these, sources, I'll just go ahead and put them in the description of this video. So if you want to go back and check it out later, you can do that as well. So my question had to do with some claims that he had made in round 2, where he was just going, over, what he believes to be correlation between Horus and Jesus that, from his perspective, he believed demonstrates that Jesus was somehow mythological. So I was asking about that for him to kind of really give a defense of it, or at least some kind of synopsis, whatever, anything more than what he did. And he got into this whole thing about Josephus. He mentioned Josephus, Tacitus, and I think he just mentioned those two. And he said there's many problems, with them, something of that nature. So I just wanted to address that real quick. Okay, cool. And so let's go with Josephus. All right. So Josephus, I mean, maybe I'll read this whole thing. I don't know. But if you look at the at your screen, you have an excerpt. Let me get to my notes here. This is from a work of Josephus. Now, Josephus was a Jewish historian, you know what I'm saying, late 1st century. And he, wrote several different things from which people can, which historians can glean information about those times. He's considered to be certainly a reliable source. So I think Jabari is just kind of tripping as far as being overly critical there. But we'll get to that in a second. So right here, this is from Testimonium Flavianum. I'm sure I mispronounced it, but Testimonium Flavianum. This is an excerpt that's I guess you can say it's pretty famous because you have what appears to be a mentioning of Jesus. Now, here's why this would be significant. Is that so when historians, let's say they want to establish the historicity of a person, they want to know, was XYZ person an historical figure? Okay. Now, there's all sorts of silly notions that get thrown around the internet about what sort of evidence constitutes good evidence for somebody having lived or whatever. One of those examples would be something like, you hear people often say, well, how do we know these people live? You can't find any of their bones or their tombs or things like that. You know what I'm saying? So how do you, therefore they didn't exist, which is obviously silly because the vast majority of human history, the vast majority of people who live throughout human history, we don't have their remains. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think about Egypt, for example, I mean, like, you might have remains of people who were in the upper class, for the most part, or pharaohs or whatever, but obviously because they were of a certain status to where there was a great deal of care taken to preserve their bones and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But for the average Joe Schmo, that wasn't necessarily the case. You know what I'm saying? So if you ain't really had no bread like that, you're not going to have that kind of a burial. And right. We today will not be able to find you. Now, does that mean that you didn't exist? No, right. Obviously not. So people say things like, oh well, you can't show Jesus' bones. Well, he resurrected for one, but even aside from that, anybody else you want to name, this notion that because you can't find their bones, therefore right. we don't have any good reason to think that they exist.
Because there's a list of pharaohs that they haven't found yet.
Right.
There's a list of pharaohs. So
sure, and probably never will. I mean, as time goes on, we're dealing with like biological matter. I mean, it can only last but for so long. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be weatherization or any number of things, tomb robbers. I mean, shoot. I mean, back during the 19th century, I mean, it was the fad to, have mummy unwrapping parties. Man, several of the pharaohs, they might have been a rap for them just off of that right there.
Literally a rap. Literally a rap.
It was a rap.
I saw what you did there.
Yeah. So, I mean, anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it's just, certain things, or I'll just give one other example. Somebody said, said to me one time, like, Jesus existed, and then why don't we have any like coins with his inscription or something like that? Which is obviously silly because Jesus was crucified as an enemy of the state.
Right.
It doesn't make, he's not the kind of person, or a traveling rabbi, a traveling preacher who's crucified, as an enemy of the state is not going to have coinage, saying assigned to him. He's not the kind of person where you would expect that kind of evidence to still be present. So, when we think about historical methodology, we have to understand, like, it's a case by case basis, depending on the person in terms of the types of evidence that you would expect to find for any given person. Now, for somebody like Jesus, who didn't have any writings himself, but you wouldn't expect him to, I'm saying, given he was a traveling preacher in the nature of being a rabbi, or in that sort of rabbinic role, you would expect for things like oral histories to come forth, or documentation from other sources to come forth. Individuals that followed him, or documentation of his movement. In people like Josephus, which is exactly what we find. So I said that to say, so when we think about Testimonium Flavianum, that I'm showing here, these are the kinds of evidence that we would expect to find for somebody like Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what we do find in the 1st, 2nd century and moving forward. Another thing I want to say too is that, when people say, want to doubt the historicity of Jesus, I'm like, name one other religious leader from the 1st century that we have documentation of. Now, how many do we have? Now, you can maybe say somebody like, and his name has escaped me, but there might be certain, people like Pharisees and so on and so forth. There might be some folks, but my point is, there's not a whole bunch of them. I'm saying you don't have a whole bunch of, religious leaders coming out of the 1st century for which we have documentation and so forth. So this is significant. I'm saying having Josephus mention Jesus is pretty significant, because by this we can, attest to the fact that he was a historical person. Now, with that being said, I did put some, I did highlight some of this in red, okay? Because one thing I want to say, and we can, keep it 100. There is some controversy about this text, the Testimonium Flavianum. There's definitely some controversy, because Josephus, as far as we know, was never a Christian. I'm saying, obviously, again, he was a Jew, but there's no reason to think that, he was a Christian. And so I highlighted in red some parts of this passage, okay, that are, I guess, like red flags for scholars to, lead them to believe that something was tampered with concerning this text. So, it talks about, for example, in the first line, Josephus says, about this time there lived Jesus, a wise man, if indeed one ought to call him a man. Let me just stop there. Like, the reason why that's, seems pretty suspect is because it's like, he's saying, like, if indeed you should call him a man, as in he holds to some sort of high Christology, right? That, Jesus was the God man, you know what I mean? So he's kind of tossing somebody there. Well, that's not the kind of thing that we would expect from Josephus, given that he wasn't a Christian. Somebody who's not a Christian is not going to be walking around calling Jesus God or insinuating that he might have been God. So that's one thing that raises, some red flags. Says he was actually, I mistakenly put he was the Messiah. I didn't mean to put that in red. But this part down here said he appeared to them, spending a 3rd day restored to life for the prophets of God, and foretold these things and 1,000 other marvels about him. So, it's kind of like this glowing report, from Josephus, and, and the main thing is about kind of like that high Christology claim. That's the main thing that gives scholars pause about this particular Josephus passage. So the question, so often it's thrown around that this passage was forged. It's a forgery. Okay. Now this gets into some important nuances. Okay. I'm hoping you guys can see when I highlight stuff. If not, maybe I can just kind of put that in red. I don't know if that shows up when I'm doing that or not. But the question can be asked: is this passage a forgery versus an interpolation? Okay. Now, a forgery would be something like, Josephus didn't write this at all. You know what I'm saying? And the passage was just inserted in its entirety into whatever original text Josephus, actually wrote. Versus an interpolation would be something like, Josephus actually did write this passage, and certain elements were inserted, in addition to what he actually wrote. Okay. So I would argue, and I'm going to show, why here in a second, that, this passage doesn't constitute a forgery, but it is, probably what we would call an interpolation. All right. Now let's go to my next slide. We good so far? We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, are you going to mention there were other manuscripts written in different languages that do not have the interpolation? Are you coming up to that, or
bliggity blow? There it is.
Okay, great. Okay,
there it is. we with it. You with it. We with it. Exactly where I was going to go. All right, I'm going to explain why. So now this passage was discovered. I think I may have misspelled this guy's name, but it's a Jewish guy named Shlomo Pines, a Jewish scholar. In 1972, he translated an Arabic version of this same Josephus text. Okay. Now in this Arabic version, what you see is that Jesus is still mentioned, right? It's the first line. At this time, there was a wise man who was called Jesus. But as opposed to in the previous text, I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. In the previous text, we had if indeed one ought to call him a man. That part is not present in the Arabic version that Shlomo Pines translated. Okay. Excuse me. It talks about how he was known to be, he was known to be of good conduct and he was virtuous. Many people from the Jews and other nations became his disciples. But again, notice that he's not referred to as the Messiah at this point. Now, let me go back to the last one. This is the one I showed at first. He said he was the Messiah. Okay. That was in the first version I showed. But in this Arabic version, you don't have that present, right? Now, you do have later on, it says accordingly, let me put this in red. Accordingly, he was perhaps the Messiah, right? He was perhaps the Messiah. Now, that would be something that was more in keeping with, with somebody like Josephus, who wasn't himself a Christian. Perhaps he was, but there's not a declarative statement, oh, this guy was the Messiah. Okay, so there's some obvious differences here. Okay. In addition, in the first version, I'm gonna go back to it again, but it says that so he appeared to them, talking about the disciples. This is the first version again. He appeared to them, spending a third a day restored to life, for the prophets of God have foretold these things and 1,000 other marvels. So in this version, this first one that I showed again, it's a declarative statement about Jesus rising on the third day. Whereas in this Arabic version, again, and this Arabic version, excuse me, I should have said this earlier, is coming from the 10th century. Okay. This Arabic version said they reported that he appeared to them 3 days after this crucifixion. So you see in this Arabic version, it's coming out of the 10th century, translated by the Jewish scholar Shlomo Pines in 1972. Okay. You see more modest claims about Jesus being made. Nevertheless, Jesus is still mentioned. Now, let me take a second to explain why both of these passages differ and why these differences are significant. Okay. So again, in the first passage, you have stronger claims about Jesus, claims that, insinuating that he may have been God, declarative statements about, he was the Messiah. He, rose on the third day, very declarative statements. In the second one that I've showed, this Arabic version from the 10th century that was translated, you have more modest claims. Okay. You still have a mentioning of Jesus, but it's things like they reported that he appeared. He was perhaps the Messiah, very, more modest claims. Now, let's talk for a second about textual criticism, how textual criticism works. Okay. I'm just going to take a second to explain this. Y'all see the manuscripts family? Did they come up? It should say manuscript.
Yes. Can you make it a little bigger though?
I don't know. Wait a minute. Let me see what y'all can see. Oh, actually, this will work for what I'm trying to explain. Okay. So you see these kind of branches. So this one at the top is kind of like this horseshoe. Well, maybe I can make it bigger. Hold on. How's that? Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So we're talking about textual criticism. Okay. Now, textual critics, what they'll take their goal is to discover text and try to find out as best they can what the original said. That's a real watered down definition of what textual critics do. I'm saying, so for any given ancient text, there are going to be various different manuscripts or copies. Okay. And so what these textual critics will do, they want to sift through these different copies. They want to sift through these manuscripts and look for differences amongst them. And there's ways that they can find, kind of work their way back to what the original most likely said. That's what textual critics do. Now, here's the thing. For any given manuscript, now, and I'm using the word manuscript, the same thing would apply to this Josephus text that we're looking at right now, okay? So it was written down by somebody at some time, right? And it was copied by a whole bunch of people after that, okay? Now, these different copies, these manuscripts or manuscript fragments, they can be grouped into what's called, manuscript families. We can refer to them that way. So you have this one at the top, it's kind of got this horseshoe. This is supposed to represent the original, all right? That little horseshoe looking thing at the top, all right? I don't know if I can, okay, yeah, I can't highlight it. Excuse me. So the horseshoe thing at the top in this little diagram represents a manuscript. Now, from the original, as people are copying, they're going to be different errors made. Like say sometimes let's say that, for example, the word there. All right. In English, you have there as in THERE, and you have there as in THEIR. You know what I'm saying? So let's say that a copyist, somebody who's a scribe, is making a copy of this original text, right? Let's say that one person has a correct spelling, and then and the other person misspells that same word. So now that one error creates two copies that are different from one another. It's kind of like this A on the left and the B, right? This is what we're talking about when we talk about manuscript families, because what's happened is now every other copyist, everybody who copies after this first mistake, is going to still have that same spelling on this one of that, say, one particular error. And that same error is going to show up in a bunch of other manuscripts later on down the line by folks who are copying from that one. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So what'll happen is you end up with these manuscript families. So scholars can tell based upon mistakes that have remained from copy to copy, where those copies with the same set of mistakes traces back to. You know what I'm saying? They can follow the stream of these set of mistakes and know, okay, well, these manuscripts probably came from this source, and that manuscripts came from that source. And they can kind of work their way back steadily to the original. All right. Now, here's why this is significant. Okay, because with this second, let me go back to it. With this Arabic version, right, what we're dealing with is based upon the fact that we've got this Arabic version of this Josephus passage without the more extravagant claims about Jesus, okay, the higher claims about Jesus, we know that there's a manuscript family that did not include the inserted material of these higher claims about Jesus, being called, being God, or that he was Messiah, that he appeared on the third day. You know what I'm saying? We have this other manuscript tradition or family of manuscripts that still attest to Jesus, still mention Jesus, you know what I'm saying? But it doesn't have these higher claims and is in more keeping with who Josephus was and what he likely believed. Thus, scholars can look at that Arabic version and say, you know what, even though there probably is an interpolation, there are some things inserted in these versions that we previously had, it's still the case that we have a version that is still reflective of Jesus having been a historical person that doesn't mention these higher claims. Thus, we still have solid evidence here that there's a mentioning of Jesus in Josephus's work, particularly the Testimonium Flavianum. You know what I'm saying? And so when Jabari talks about there's problems with Josephus, I'm saying more than likely he's probably referring to this controversy right here. This is the most controversial aspect of Josephus's attestation about Jesus. Now, with that being said, let's just say that this whole passage is garbage. Let's just say that the whole thing is just to be cast off as an entire forgery. This is not the only passage that Josephus mentions Jesus. Okay.
But before you even get into that, right?
Yeah.
Again, the question is whether or not he existed, right? Not whether or not he is of divine origin, that he's one with God, right? We would not expect that from him anyway, because he's a Jew. He did not believe that Yeshua was the Mashiach, right? But the fact that he's writing about him as a real person, that's the point.
That's the point.
That's the point.
Right.
Regardless of the interpolation or not, he's referring to him within a actual historical event.
Right.
And that's the point, that he acknowledges that this Jesus did exist.
Right. So that's great. So again, going back to what I was saying before, that, when we're looking to establish the historicity of a person, right, there's different ways you can go about that. And somebody like Jesus, you would expect to find mentions of him in works like Josephus. Say we don't expect to, find, some of the theological content in some of these secular works, right? But nevertheless, we do have a mentioning here, which is what we'd expect to see, and we do indeed see it in Josephus. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, great point there. But again, let's say, we don't have to hang our hat on that. Okay. If, let's say, for example, we find that this passage right here is problematic and there's no good reason to accept the Arabic version as being legitimate either. Well, Josephus mentions, Jesus in another passage, in Antiquities, right? And another work that he wrote called Antiquities. He says, since Annas Ananus was that kind of person, and because he perceived an opportunity with Festus having died and Albinus not yet arrived, he called a meeting of the Sanhedrin and brought James, the brother of Jesus, who is called Messiah, along with some others, and he accused them of transgressing the law and handed them over for stoning. Right. So you have not only Jesus here, but you have James and the brother of James, the brother of Jesus. So evidently, Josephus is aware of, at least the oral history at very least. I'm saying, if not, maybe some early recorded history about Jesus. I'm saying, and he knows enough about what's going on to be able to identify James and understand who James is in relation to Jesus. Now, this passage right here is not nowhere near controversial in the manner that the first one is. I'm saying this one here is regarded as relatively okay. Well, James, yeah, I mean, he was the leader of the church. After once the church is established, James becomes the head of the church. Yeah, I mean, we have good reason to think that he was stoned, and this is the kind of thing that we would expect to be happening. So that there's it's kind of like nothing to see here. You know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of thing that we would expect, right?
Right.
So so we've got two references to Jesus in Josephus's work, so that even if the first one is suspect, we still have another mentioning of Jesus with by this Jewish historian, right? But if that's not enough, okay, we've got my man Tacitus, right?
But before we can get to Tacitus,
yeah,
just the fact that Yeshua, who was basically a local rabbi, who didn't really travel too far out of what we now call Palestine, who comes from a backwater town of Bethlehem, right? Very marginalized individual. The fact that he gets a shout out in Josephus' recordings is actually a big deal, right? It's a big deal that he took note of who Jesus was and found him worthy enough to be part of his recordation of that history. That is huge.
It's huge.
So
it's huge. Exactly. And mind you, we don't have like tons of material coming out of the first century. And then it's not like we've got a full, play by play from every possible angle, in history. So in the very little that we have from the first century, we find Jesus popping up. So, that's amazing right there. Now, again, we have Tacitus, who was a Roman historian, regarded as like, if not the most reliable Roman historian of his era, certainly among the most reliable Roman historians. So he writes a work called Annals in about 116 AD. Right. I'm not going to read the whole passage, but you see there at the bottom, I think they can see that, is that, Nero fastened guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abomination called Christians by the populace. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty which was that the term extreme penalty was a colloquialism. It was a slang way of referring to the crucifixion. So Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of our procurator, Pontius Pilate. So, so you've got this, this mentioning of Christians, right? And, actually it talks about them being from Judea and where it came from and all this kind of stuff in the extended, passage. But nevertheless, Christ is mentioned. And then you have Christus there. It talks about him enduring, the death penalty at the hands of Pontius Pilate. I mean, I don't know how much clearer it could be, in terms of who this is talking about. I don't know if anybody referred to in ancient works that would fit this description other than Jesus of Nazareth, who's mentioned in the New Testament. If you got somebody else, I would love to hear it. But as far as I can tell, this seems to be a pretty clear-cut mentioning in a secular ancient Roman work of Jesus and the Christian movement, the early Christian movement. You know what I'm saying? Now, mind you, one of the reasons why historians regard this as being a legitimate mentioning, right, is that let me see. Okay, well, because actually, I think I clipped it off. But at the end of this clip, Tacitus mentions, he refers to Christianity as being a mischievous superstition. So Tacitus is not a Christian, right? And not even like Christianity. He thinks it's disgusting. You know what I'm saying? Which would have been reflective of much of Rome during his time. They thought it was just an abomination, right? So you have what's called enemy attestation. Okay, you have somebody, referencing Jesus who don't even like Jesus. Doesn't even like Christianity, and yet still they're included this in the historical record. Why? Because this was what was going on at the time, and he recorded it. Simple as that. You know what I'm saying? So again, we have another mentioning of Jesus in an early source. I'm saying a source that's within 100 years of his life, which is phenomenal when it comes to ancient history. I mean, like, and this, we covered this last time, so I'm not going to go over it again. But if anybody has if Jabari were to have a problem, with the dating of this evidence, then when he talks about people in the third round of their debate about like Imhotep and these other dudes who we don't have attestation within 1,000 years of their life or more. I mean, you can't have that kind of double standard. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
You got to keep that same energy, right?
You got to keep that same energy. That same energy. Exactly.
And Tacitus is very specific, right? Because he's talking about the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our, procurators, Pontius Pilate. That he's giving you the times and dates of a particular reign. Who was the actual authority of that region at that time? Like, he's very specific.
Right.
Myths are not specific. It's some Star Wars a long time ago in the galaxy far away. That's how myths are usually spoken of.
Right.
Myths are not giving you actual times of reigns and certain authorities of certain regions. Like, Tacitus definitely believes that this actually happened and that this person actually existed.
Right. He's under the impression that Jesus actually existed.
Yes.
And that's based upon the sources that he consulted with and what was going on at his time. You know what I'm saying? You got a bunch of, I mean, imagine, let's say if you're a historian like right now, right? Let's say that, something is popping off in, we got the situation in Iran right now.
Right.
And, if somebody's going to go investigate, they're going to consult, they want to find an explanation for what's going on in Iran right now. So they're going to consult with the sources that they have available and talk about what's happening. That's all, Tacitus was doing. He wasn't trying to spread the gospel. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't trying to, recruit nobody to the, the Christianity, none of that. He was just saying, hey, look, this is what it is.
Quite the opposite.
Hated
for their abominations.
Right.
He considered it an abomination.
An abomination. Exactly. Precisely. So, so again, Jabari, I don't, no disrespect to him, but I think he was just missing it, bro. I mean, like, the reality is, like, if you're going to take the Jesus was a myth route, I mean, you're really swimming upstream against just a bulk of legitimate scholarship. If you want to fight that battle, hey, more power to you, but you can't, be mad at Christians who are standing, on the shoulders of just mounds of evidence that you just choose not to acknowledge. It's simple as that.
Use that same fine-tooth comb for your own people in your worldview as well, in your history. If you're going to be so, with the magnifying glass for Jesus, I need you to use that same magnifying glass for these other individuals that you hold in such high regard as well.
Facts. I mean, that's an excellent point. And actually, this will kind of get to, some other stuff that I wanted to cover. But I mean, to your point, though, is that what you see, and to be fair, this is not just Jabari either. Let me clarify by saying that it's not just Jabari, but you'll have people come up with all these different myths and conspiracy theories about Jesus, blah 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 blah, and it's like they actually will subscribe to sources of information that are far less credible than the Christians that they're criticizing.
Yep.
But yet they have a lot to say, and to me that's just astonishing. It just really amazes me because I think that I mean, I don't want to say it's disingenuous. I think sometimes people just really don't know.
Right.
But check your own sources. I mean, if you go that hard for real, cool. Be skeptical about your skepticism. You know what I'm saying? Check your sources too. And hopefully we can arrive at some truth, man. So that's all I wanted to touch on there. So, and I definitely want to get back to some of his claims regarding the Jesus myth stuff. But did you want to say something while I kind of cue up that, or?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what. Before I go there, I haven't looked at the chat in a second. He said, "If only Philo would have." Oh, see, this is interesting. So Karma Crunk asked a question. He said, "If only Philo would have wrote about Jesus." Now, what's interesting about that is that with Philo, you have a contemporary author, somebody who we would want to, it'd be great if you did. But at the same time, we don't have all of Philo's writings. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, maybe he did for all we know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just the nature of archaeology. You know what I'm saying? So I agree. It'd be dope to have, Jesus and a bunch of other sources, or, Seneca or something like that. But I think out of like maybe 25-ish, writings that Philo is purported to have written, I think we have like maybe, I don't even think we have half of that. You know what I'm saying? So that's just something that, I just want, so I'm not saying that to criticize Karma Crump, but I just want to make the point that when we're dealing with archaeology, right, we're dealing with a limited data set. You know what I'm saying? There's not a whole lot of stuff, like I said, before coming out of the first century. So it's pretty phenomenal that we have anything at all, referring to Christ. But, definitely, it'd be dope. But hey, you never know. Maybe as more things are discovered, we'll be able to come across it as well. But that's a great point. Shout out to Philo. You know what I mean? But granted that, with that being said, maybe some of his, Philo's content might have shown up in John 1, but that's a different discussion different day. That Logos Christology. Cool, man. So I gotta queue up. I gotta queue up the video because I wanted to address some of those supposed connections between Jesus and Horus. Jabari is.
So while you're doing that up, I know people, since you know about the upcoming debate, yes, we will be doing breakdowns of those debates as well. So,
oh yeah,
definitely going to get busy on that.
Absolutely. And I think it's so crucial just to speak on that real quick, because it's not. I mean, I enjoy doing these breakdowns. Man, I love it. I'm having time of my life. But with that being said, I think that it's so important that we maintain just momentum. Because the thing is, we don't want misinformation, to be setting the tone of conversation. And we want to make sure that we're getting in this, giving good scholarship now, and people and honestly, people can look. I mean, like honestly, throughout our breakdown sessions, we're not just cheerleading Vince Bantu. This is not like, yo, he killed him, he bodied him, bro. It's not like a React video. It's not that. I mean, like we're going point by point, and we're just breaking down the content, and people can see, what's kind of going on in terms of the content of the debate. If folks disagree, then they can tear us apart too. You know what I'm saying? But we're putting the information out there, and this is not just a cheerlead session. This is we're breaking down content. So that's what that is. So you want to take a look at this other video?
Let's go.
And I have no idea if it's queued up in the right spot. If it's not, then I'll just have to find it. But we'll see what happens.
In Heru, how can you see that? Do a citation. I'll do that later. And all day long, you can't pretend that didn't happen. And he even suggested I didn't do a citation. I'll do that later. This is the original Austin Heru. How can you see that and not recognize that you are seeing a copy? And in fact, I do not have the time to go through all of the similarities and myths, but very quickly, I'm gonna run through this so quickly, y'all. Some of y'all will catch it, some of you watch the video. Now look, you're gonna see archetypes for Jesus within the stories of Heru and the stories of Asar. It's not in one place, because remember, it's not a carbon copy, but a copy nonetheless. That's what occurs. So we see Heru as the son of God. You know very well that he's the son of Asar, right? Do you know this? Okay. If I have to give you a citation for that, you're not equipped to hear this conversation. Does that make sense? That is just evident and known. He also was born of a virgin and displayed in a crib outside of temples.
Let me just pause right there, man. Now, again, this is not a critic. I'm not trying to be, mean-spirited, but I do think from a rhetorical standpoint that that was one of those things that you referred to in a previous video in terms of just like the condescending tone. You know what I mean? Now, to be fair, I think what's going on there is that, prior to, or like earlier in the round, Bantu pointed out that your man Jabari was real slim on them citations. You know what I'm saying? And now, I mean, he wasn't, well sourced, quite frankly. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't have any, You know what I mean? But he didn't seem to have citations that were sufficient to make his case. And so I think at this point in the debate, I think what's going on is that he's a little sensitive to that. You know what I mean? Because when I started the clip,
he's a little agitated. Yeah, he's agitated.
Yeah, I think he's agitated. You know what I'm saying? So now, granted, he's a human being. You know what I mean? So I just want to be careful. I don't want to pick on him too much. You know what I'm saying, but I think that I'm just basically giving a perspective of somebody who was there and kind of how it felt when he was making statements like that. Like how I felt about it was, I mean, I'm familiar with these things, but I mean, come on, man, most people aren't. I mean, let's just be real, and that's just, I mean, that's part of the reason why we're having the debate in the first place. I mean, it's because people don't know these things.
Right.
So I think he kind of got in his feelings. I think he was, like I said, he's a human being. I ain't trying to, blast the guy, but it just, that was a real bad. I just thought those kind of things were just kind of some bad moments.
Poor taste. It was definitely in poor taste.
Poor taste. Right. Okay. So let me get back on here.
Citation. The Egyptians have consecrated up to this day the childbirth of a virgin and the nativity of her son, who was exposed in crib to the adoration of the people. This is from the Chronicle Pascal from actually the 6th century CE. Citation. So that you should understand that people understood that was happening in Kemetic temples. In fact, Heru is usually born on December 25th. Here's another citation. Every year, the temples of Horus presented to worshipers in midwinter, on or about December 25th, a scenic model of the birth of Horus. The Roman writer Macrobius adds to that the young god was a symbol for the rebirth of the sun at that date. The whole world by the year 1 AD was familiar with the Egyptian statues of pictures of Isis and her divine maid Horus in her arms. That's Joseph McCabe from the Story of Religious Controversy. His birth is heralded by 3 kings. You should know that one of the things that happens before this date is that the 3 stars align and point to another star. The 3 kings follow a star in the east. That is when you know when this will actually occur. That is, you've heard that story. You just didn't know that they took it from you, African. You can't just take it back the same way they gave it to you. You don't think that they messed with it in 2,000 years?
All right, so let me pause there. I think he's going to make some more claims, but just for the sake of, kind of sectioning it off a little bit, I want to kind of respond to some things that he said thus far. First of all, just with that last thing, I mean, this is just a rhetorical, I don't want to use the word trick, but a rhetorical tactic, you know what I'm saying, that a lot of people will use, is they'll use leading questions to imply an argument for which they haven't given evidence, right? So again, they'll use leading questions to imply an argument that they haven't supported with evidence. Now, in and of itself, I'm not going to say that it's dishonest.
Appeal to emotion as well.
And appeal to emotion. Yeah, exactly. When he says that they took it from you, African, like that's an appeal to, it's kind of pulling on those heartstrings. Now, I'm not going to criticize him necessarily for that, because I think that rhetoric is part of the game. I'm saying, we have a debate, then is more than just content. You know what I'm saying? So actually, to his credit, I'm going to say that he was employing some rhetorical skill there. I'm not criticizing him for that. Nevertheless, when it comes to discerning who won the debate and whether a point, a substantial point was made, you want to be swayed by the evidence. I'm saying, you want to be persuaded by the content of what is being argued, not the manner in which it is argued. Okay. So when he says, don't you think they messed with it in 2,000 years? Well, okay. I mean, that's possible, but can you provide evidence to show that they did? That's the question. They don't just throw the question out there and expect the emotional content of how you framed it to do your work for you in making your argument that you didn't substantiate with evidence.
I mean, he's also begging the question.
I'm saying,
he's also begging the question because he's already assuming that the premise within his question was already proven fact.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You're assuming that it's a fact, and you're saying it in such a way that you want the crowd to also join in with your assumption, so that you don't have to prove it and you can move on to your next point. Right.
So if somebody's if you're really trying to argue like that, then actually, I mean, maybe. I guess I'm being charitable in saying that it's rhetorical, and I think he probably was being it. But I mean, if you see somebody doing that often, then sometimes they're just being lazy. To be honest with you, if that's the pattern by which you argue on the regular, then you're plugging in emotion and just kind of open-ended questions where there should be evidence. So you kind of want to watch out for that.
Your crowd, right? And somebody who is as polished as Jabari, he knows the crowd that he usually talks to, and he knows what works and what doesn't, which is smart, right? Which is smart for him to do. So when it comes to his rhetorical prowess and his aesthetic, right? Because it's not just what he says, it's what he wears, right? How he walks, how he engages the audience, right? These are all elements that you do need if you want to be a great debater, right? But you don't win just off of style points.
Right. Yeah, and to that point, yeah, and again, I'm not interested in just kind of cheerleading Bantu. I want to give credit where credit is due as far as Jabari is concerned. Now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of anybody in the conscious community that that has that skill set such that they could go anywhere in any setting and debate more so than Jabari does in the conscious community.
Outside of polite, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, even with polite, I mean,
Polite has great rhetorical skills as well.
He has great rhetorical skill, but I don't know if his crossover value is as natural. It's sort of what I mean by that is much of what polite does. I mean, nobody's gonna. You can't out rant polite. Like polite's rant game is strong. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't take that from him. You know what I'm saying? He's strong with that rant game. You know what I mean? But that's not gonna work everywhere.
Right.
Whereas I think that Jabari is more calm style to his credit. I mean, I think that it's pretty versatile. I think he can go just about it. You know what it kind of reminds me of? It's like Rick Ross. You know what I'm saying? Rick Ross pretty much spits the same way on every track. You know what I mean? Right. Or maybe another guy like Pusha T. You know what I'm saying? Pusha T pretty much spits the same way on every track. You know what I'm saying? He's going to talk about selling crack. You know what I mean? He's going to talk about, there's going to be a lot of wordplay and punchlines.
Very well. He does it very well.
He does it very well. You know what I'm saying? Jadakiss the same way. There are certain guys who got like that thing that they do that just translates well from every track. And I think that's kind of how Jabari is, maybe more so than polite. And that's no slight to polite. We just talking, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, so getting back to the this is part of the breakdown too. You know what I'm saying all this stuff really matters. So when you sit down and watch a debate, I just want to encourage people, look for these kind of things. You know what I'm saying? What am I being swayed by? That's what you want to ask yourself.
Link is real quick. Yes, Bantu will be debating to Zariar this March in Brooklyn. So, I'm sorry.
Right. Carmel Crunk asks, do they trust primary sources? I'm gonna be honest with you. One thing I've noticed is a pattern in the conscious community is a lack of usage and a lack of just as far as primary sources, it has some inconsistency there. I mean, I don't think there's a high regard for methodology, quite frankly, when it comes to the conscious community, and that's no disrespect to anybody in particular, but it's often the case that when they're trying to make a case about something in the ancient world, that primary sources will be omitted, and not just primary. I mean, we talk about primary sources a lot, but I mean even secondary sources can be pieces of evidence in the case. So I don't want to just leave it at that.
They speak of primary sources and methodology. They'll give it a lot of lip service. But when it's time to have that actual conversation, then a lot of times they are found lacking. But they do speak on it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
A rhetorical thing to show that, hey, look, I'm smart because I'm saying smart things. So please believe what I'm about to say right now. So.
And to be fair, some dudes are actually a little, are just like any community. Some guys are more sharper than others. You know what I'm saying? Just like any community. So you have some guys who do have a good grasp of why primary sources are important and they utilize them. I mean, so I just want to make sure I'm not painting the whole community with a broad brush. I mean, you got to take just like anything else. You got to take it with a case by case basis. Some guys do, some don't. I think there needs to be more regard for primary sources. Maybe that'd be a good way to put it. With that being said, I want to go back to some of the claims that Jabari made, and with respect to the supposed Jesus mythicism. Now, I think we covered some of this in a previous session, but I want to just lay some groundwork, put some tools in place so people understand as I kind of give a critique where I'm coming from. So I just want to put two tools in place, and then we'll get into some direct rebuttals. So let me go ahead and share the screen here. Okay. All right. Cool. Can y'all see that?
Can you make it a little bigger?
Man.
And shout out to my man Theosis Redneck. Is that the proper way to say it? Much love to you. He was in my live stream the other night. Appreciate it.
Okay, cool. You know what? I can I don't know why I didn't think about this. I can increase the font. How about we do that?
And Dana Murphy here talks about also look for information overload tactics. Yes, they do that quite a bit. They'll hit you with 40,000 questions, and if you can only answer 39,000 of them, and you miss that one, you've lost.
Yeah. They hit you with the shotgun blast. Of information.
Right.
And you know what? Actually, that's a great point, though. I mean, that is something to be. So there's actually a term for that. I think it's called the Gish Gallop. Okay. Now, the Gish Gallop is a particular debate strategy where you front load your arguments with a whole bunch of different arguments. I'm saying that your opponent certainly doesn't have enough time to respond to, right? And then when they don't respond to everything, you emphasize what they didn't respond to, and claim victory. So there actually is a term for that. I think it's called the Gish Gallop. You
learn something new in True ID podcast, baby. Let's go.
You said what?
So you always learn something new at the True ID podcast.
Oh yeah. Hey, we aim to please, man. We aim to please. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know that. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're gonna deal with this. This actually is another term. It's a post hoc ergo propter hoc. Now we just heard Jabari say a second ago. He said something like, when you have, I mean, I know he's being funny, but he said when you have what's reported about Jesus being reported about a bunch of other people or about other people a bunch of different times, he said you don't have to be a zoologist to know that, if it quacks, it's a duck. Now what's actually interesting about that is, he, kind of just lightheartedly attested to the fact that he subscribes to a particular fallacy called the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy. It's actually funny. I know he's trying to be funny, but actually, so post hoc ergo propter hoc is Latin for, I'm actually going to go ahead and put it in red so it kind of be more, maybe it'd be easier to read. So post hoc ergo propter hoc is Latin for after this, therefore because of this. That's what it means. There's a common, well-known fallacy, right? So it's basically like when we think that A was the cause of B simply because B happened after A. That's clearly fallacious. And I'm going to give some examples as to why. When I say I'm throwing that word fallacious around, when I say fallacious, I'm saying that it's a mistaken reasoning. Okay, that's basically what we mean when we talk about.
Would that be similar to correlation does not make causation? Would that be similar to that?
Yeah, I think the key word is similar. So, and I'm going to get to this in a second as well. But to your point, just because two things are similar doesn't mean that they are the same or came from one another.
Right.
And just because two things, something is similar to something else and came before that doesn't necessarily mean that
there's a direct connection. Right?
There's a direct connection. You know what I'm saying? So there's two nuanced ways that kind of get it. There are two common fallacies that are mistakes and reasonings that people make. But yeah, it's the same thing. Just because two things are correlated doesn't mean that they're the same. So for example, just off the top of my head, now this actually, I'm not going to claim to be, a scholar in Chinese history, but I just came across something the other day. Did you know that there's actually a code of 10, what's called the 10 abominations in Chinese law, which dates back to the Qing dynasty. I want to say, I can't remember if it's the 7th or the 10th century AD, but it's the 10 abominations. Now, when you read the 10 abominations, it's talking about things like, don't betray, your political leaders, don't, murder, those who are in authority over you, just stuff kind of politically laced rules and regulations, right? You know, now we also have in the scriptures, right? We got the 10 Commandments. Now these cultures are, you know, clearly, you know, divergent. I mean, like, you know, the 10 Commandments was not the forerunner for the 10 abominations. I'm saying we're referring to like don't assassinate people and stuff like that. You know, that when you compare the 10, the 10 Commandments and the 10 abominations, they really bear nearly no similarity at all. But there's 10 of them in each case. And so what you see is people all the time, they'll, you know, particularly in the conscious community, they'll see one element of similarity.
Right.
And then they'll take the logical leap to say, well, therefore, oh, look, you know, these people are borrowed from those people.
Right. Parallelmania.
For the evidence. You know, you can do that. Parallelmania. Exactly.
Parallelmania.
So it's not just when it comes to Jesus and Horus or Christianity. And I mean, you can do that all throughout history. You know what I'm saying? There's 12 members on the field, 12 men on the field. No, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. 11 men on the field?
What, football? I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. There's an average of 12 guys on the average basketball team. Let's go with that. And there's also 12 people on the jury. Now, are we to believe that there's some connection between the number of people that we have in the jury and the average number of people that's on a basketball team?
And a dozen eggs is 12 eggs, right? So therefore,
right.
Right.
So I mean, just silly stuff like that, man. I mean, you know, but I don't know. So people play a number games. My point is they'll take one similarity without taking into account the dissimilarities, the things that are different about A and B, and they'll try to make a connection out of it. You know what I'm saying? So that's there you go. MJ Jackson's 12 donuts. We keep going. You know what I'm saying? 12 months a year. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we can do with that. You know, yeah, you know, law of Moses has similarities with other ancient law codes. Of course, absolutely, because you know, there's certain things that every culture is going to consider to be wrong. Like, I don't care where you go on the planet. I can't think of any culture to think murdering people is okay. Yeah. they wouldn't be around for very long, probably. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, there are certain things that are common to the human condition that we would expect to find in their moral codes. You know what I'm saying? And that's consistent with Romans 1. Right. I mean, the moral law is written on our hearts. And so every culture is going to produce similar moral codes. There's going to be some overlap, rather. You know, you shouldn't be stealing stuff and, you know, things like that. So, all right. So anyway, let me get back to the post hoc ergo propter. I'm going to give some examples. So again, it's fallacious to say that just because A happened before B, then therefore A is the cause of B, or that B came from A. I'm saying if you're just taking a similarity alone, or the fact that something came before something else, if you take that by itself, that in and of itself isn't sufficient to make the case that A is the cause of B. All right, so let me give a real life example. All right, so boom, April 14th, 1912, the Titanic sank. You know, everybody knows about the Titanic. You know what I'm saying? It went down and that whole thing. Leonardo DiCaprio. You know, that was in his early years when he was like, I guess, the teenage heartthrob or whatever. You know, he blew up off that jank. You know what I mean? So everybody knows about the Titanic. You know, I've actually never seen that movie, as a matter of fact.
Oh no, it's all right. It's cool.
Yeah, I just, you know,
I mean, if you want to talk about, you know, embellishing a historical event, then this is your movie.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of embellishment, that's the move. You know what I mean? Okay, so we got the Titanic. Now notice again, it happens on April 14, 1942. Excuse me, 1912. April 14th, 1912. Now, prior to that, you know what I'm saying? You have a book called, oh shoot, I thought I had the year on it. I'm going to look it up right quick. The Futility, or it's also called The Wreck of the Titan, written by Morgan Robertson. Let me look up that date. All right. Well, can you bring that up, Alfredo? I thought I had it on the screen.
All right, let me see if I can find it.
All right. Oh, here we go. Looks like it was written in 1898. 1898. So 14 years before the Titanic sinks, you had this book called The Wreck of the Titan, which describes a ship called the Titan that sinks. I'm saying it sinks in the sea. You know what I'm saying? Now, just because, you know, this book is written, you know, 14 years ahead of time, right? Does that mean that the Titanic didn't actually sink? No, of course not. I'm saying, like, we can find the records today. You know, we know that the Titanic sunk. I'm saying, so just because you have this, like, oh man, wait a minute, you got the Titan, the Titanic, I'm telling you, they borrowed it from that. Well, no, we got the records at the bottom of the sea. We know what happened, and we know when this book was published. You see what I'm saying? So again, that's a historical event. You know what I'm saying? That is not undermined in terms of whether or not it happened, based upon the fact that you have some sort of similarity, in a book written 14 years before. Again, this book called The Record of Titan. You got this book going across the that sinks. Boom, that doesn't cancel out the historical reality of the Titanic. Another example.
But before you even do that, I'm looking at it real quick. The similarities is crazy.
I know. Yeah, I could go a lot further.
It sank in April.
Uh-huh.
Which the Titanic also sank in April in the North Atlantic, and it sank because they hit an iceberg. That's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you got these three. So we got 3 points of similarity. Right. Now, the question is, does that mean that the Titanic didn't sink? Does that mean that it's all of a sudden not a historical event? Of course not. I'm saying therefore it's possible for there to be some semblance of something else prior to it, and yet that event is still historical.
But the Titanic plagiarized from the futility of the Titan, though, bro.
Right. It plagiarized. There you go. That's what people will say, but but that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, things happen like that all the time, man. I mean, there are parallels in history. It happens. We've been around here on this planet for a while. Sometimes things look like other things. It just is what it is. So another example. September 11, 2001, 9/11, right? We all know what happened. You got planes flying into the towers, you know what I'm saying? Caused a whole bunch of havoc. We all know about that, right? Now, was that the first time that a plane flew into a tall building, causing hysteria?
Not in New York.
Not in New York.
Not in New York.
Because in 1945, the Empire State Building, you had a B-25 plane runs into the Empire State Building, causing a whole bunch of havoc there, right? So, which was the tallest building at the time, I believe. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. America for sure. So anyway, a plane runs into a tall building, causing hysteria. That's a similarity in both cases. Okay, so I got to
in the same borough.
In the same
both of them happen in Manhattan. Yeah.
Oh, true. So I didn't even think about that. So we got the geographer. I gotta hold my son right quick.
No doubt.
He might blow up at me. Yeah, he might blow up at me. But so again, when we think about the historical similarity between these two events, now in the first case, again, we were dealing with a fictional work that preceded, an actual historical event, right? And we saw that doesn't, negate, one doesn't negate the other. You know what I'm saying? Likewise, we see, in this instance, we have one historical event preceding another historical event, where there's some similarities. And again, it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't negate that both of them actually happened. So
there was a connection.
There's a connection, right? There's some overlap. Right. And with the first one, like you said, I mean, you get into, again, I could have gone further than that, but with the futility of the Titan, you got, they both go down in April, hit an iceberg, there's more than one connection. So again, that just goes back to my point with post hoc ergo propter hoc. It's not the case that, just because, A happened before B, that B caused A. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to kind of lay that groundwork right there. Mm-hmm. All right.
Good stuff.
Cool. So, again, we're laying the groundwork, putting some tools in place. Yeah, you know what? So actually, I want to give an example here. You know what I'm saying? Related to, we can kind of take care of one of Jabari's claims. He mentioned, and actually, you know what? He didn't even get there yet. So I'm not even going to do that yet. I'll come back to it. I want to talk about trivial similarities. So it's another piece of groundwork that we want to lay. So when I talk about trivial similarities, some things like really aren't all that substantial, you know what I'm saying, in terms of being a similarity. Like the fact that you got two figures who purport to have done, miracles. I mean, that's not, something, I mean, you would expect that to be the case for any, entity that for which divinity claims are made. I mean, that's not nothing, spectacular. Right. Or in a minute, Jabari is going to mention that, this whole Son of God thing, you know what I'm saying, that both Horus and, Jesus are referred to as being the Son of God, again, that's kind of a trivial similarity. I mean, you would expect that to be the case. I mean, even pharaohs, throughout, Egypt.
I mean, most kings in the ancient Near East definitely had an affiliation with their home deity. Like that was just commonplace.
That was common, right? Right. So in other words, and likewise with the King of Kings, you know what I'm saying, that he'll make that point in a minute. I'm just knocking these out because these are kind of just easy, one-liners that he throws out and we can just dismiss. But the same thing with King of Kings. I mean, a ton of people, whether they're divine or whatever claims they made about themselves, will claim that they were the King of Kings. Like they're the baddest dude around. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like these are what you call trivial similarities. I mean, you haven't really made gains for your case of some sort of connection by pointing out things like this, because these are the kind of things that we would expect from any figure, that is purported to be divine or of some authority of some sort. So some of the claims that he's going to make is going to fall under these trivial similarities. And when we come to those, I'll just kind of mention it as trivial, and then I'll keep it moving. Another thing I want to say that he actually already said, mentioned was archetypes. Okay. Now, what does he mean by archetypes? He's basically saying that, and this is a theory that has become popular. I know Jordan Peterson, I'm saying he's kind of advanced this idea that you basically have these, well, I'll use the word prototypes because I think more people are familiar with that. You know what I'm saying? But basically these ideas that are the blueprint for other ideas, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Or there's like some sort of prototype person, or like a model person that serves as a model for other people that come along.
It's like the hero's journey, right? All these books are similar to that plot of the hero's journey. That's the archetype of of most action books.
Right. Now the problem with Jabari for his case is that I think he was trying to lower the bar for himself. No, shout out to Karma Crump. Appreciate the super chat, man. Definitely. He says keep up the good work. I appreciate that, brother. Definitely appreciate that on the super chat. Shout out to him. And by the way, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, man. BK, you late to the party, man. Like me and Tim Allison, we sparked something off last time that I'm actually going to start doing book giveaways.
Nice.
So for every $100 that comes in through the super chat, we're going to do a book giveaway. Through like a lottery type system. So we're $20 closer to that. I appreciate it.
Nice.
Sure, definitely. Trying to get this information out to folks. Definitely appreciate it. So, oh man, I knew I was gonna lose my train of thought. I knew I was gonna do that. With archetypes. So with Jabari, I think he was trying to do certain things throughout this debate. And again, this gets into the debate strategy aspect of our analysis. So I think he was trying to lower the bar for himself in two particular ways when it comes to this copy question. One, he made the claim that Christianity was not a direct copy from Egypt, but that it was a copy of a copy,
right? A carbon copy,
copy through Rome and Greece, basically. You know what I'm saying? I think in a way he was trying to lower the bar for himself, but really where he messed up is that once you start adding different cultures into the mix, now you have to account for more connections. And if you were just saying it came from Egypt, you're just accounting for a connection between one culture and another. But now if you're going to start throwing these other ones into place, well, now you got more explaining to do, which makes your hypothesis more complex. And
right.
One thing that we know is that when it comes to historical methodology, simpler explanations are going to be preferred over a more complex explanation.
Occam's razor, right?
That's just that's how it works. Occam's razor, exactly right. I'm saying same thing applies to philosophy, whether it be science, really whatever field of discovery you're looking at. Occam's razor is going to apply. The simpler explanation is to be preferred over the one more complex. So Jabari actually added complexity to his argument, where I think he was trying to lower the bar. And likewise, when it comes to this notion, about archetypes, he's like basically you'll find archetypes in like Horus' story and plus Osiris and so forth. But if you're going to do that, I mean, you can find that anywhere. I mean, you could cherry pick your way throughout all of human history and find similarities between persons or events. I mean, that's not hard to do. We just showed that a second ago. I mean, that's not hard to do. So he actually, in taking that approach, he in a sense trivializes the connections that he does make, because you can just find connections anywhere if you feel like. Right. You said I did the same thing between the 10 Commandments and the 10 Abominations in the Qing Dynasty. I'm saying I can do that all day. So he actually loses steam with his arguments, trying to go the archetype route. He just basically gives himself license to cherry pick, which is a weak way of arguing, the conclusion that he wants us to subscribe to. that Jesus was somehow a myth taken from Kemet. Oh yeah, last thing I'm gonna say too before we get into some other stuff is late references is certainly, for whatever reason, I don't even know why, you know what I'm saying, but it seemed to be a pattern in Jabari's argumentation. You know what I'm saying? So for example, just now he talked about how there's a crib scene, like kind of a nativity scene that, you know, supposedly Joseph McCabe attested to, and this guy Roman writer Macrobius. But actually, you know what? I don't think. Oh man, I'm not sure if you'd be able to see it if I bring it up. But if I were to bring up his slide, on his slide, you know, it says that the first nativity scene, Christian nativity scene, was in the 12th century, right? And he's quoting somebody who's trying to place, you know, the nativity scene like in the 6th century,
Right?
Macrobius, so between the six. Now, my point is, in either case, that's far too late. That's far too late to make a case that, you know, the Christians borrowed the nativity scene from Kemet. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, for all we know, they could have been doing it in the 1st century, but we don't know. He hasn't provided us any evidence, you know, of either Christians or you know, people indigenous to Kemet and practicing those systems having nativity scene in the 1st century. I'm saying he hasn't you know, gone far back enough with his source to substantiate his claim about, you know, there being something about Christianity itself. You know what I'm saying? In terms of having borrowed this.
So, I mean, it's also odd because nobody, from what I could tell, nobody from the conscious community champions 6th century Egypt, because it's not the Egypt they like. It's not that version.
That's interesting. It's interesting.
You know what I mean? Because by the time you get to the 6th century, you have all this admixture. It is not the mighty Egypt that they love to profess, you know, to emulate. You know, so it's a totally different. We're not talking Middle Kingdom, right? We're not talking Taharka. We're not talking like all these amazing pharaohs. You know what I mean? It's like, this is 6th century. This is Roman Egypt. This is Roman Egypt. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird that he would use that particular time frame, but you know.
Yeah, man, that is kind of strange. You know what I'm saying? Because you're right, that is kind of outside of how they get down. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of odd. Yeah, it's weird. I'm not exactly sure. Like, well, I guess maybe he was just kind of fishing for, you know, different sources.
It was a reach. It was a reach.
Yeah, it was definitely a reach. It was
definitely a reach.
You know what I'm saying? That's interesting. Yeah, Karma Cross said they should only like the 25th dynasty. Interesting. I'd be interested to kind of hear like her perspective on that. You know, in terms of why that'd be interesting. But
is that King Tut? Is that during that time? Maybe.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. It'd be interesting. Yeah, if you want to expound on that, that'd be great. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I would definitely love to hear it. Yeah, so, you know, yeah, just late references and misrepresentations, which will kind of come out here in a second. But I think that kind of takes care of, again, laying the groundwork. So you'll see me use these tools. And again, actually, we don't have to really go but so much longer because, I mean, he just kind of makes these claims in rapid fire succession. You know what I mean? And we're just going to kind of address them one by one. We already took care of his claim about, you know, the archetypes and, you know, the nativity scene. I mean, he's far too late on that one. So I guess I'll go ahead and play some more of what he said, and then we'll go over there. Oh, Nubians ruled Egypt. Yeah, that's interesting because Nubians, I mean, definitely going to be some darker skinned folks. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what's funny? They kind of, you know, they're not crazy about that either because it's not indigenous Kemet, right? It's a foreign power that takes over Kemet. So depending on what faction of the conscious community, like some of them will definitely champion the Nubian rulership, right? Others not so much, right? So it depends on which part of the community that you're referencing.
Ah, good point, man. Good point. Vocab Malone with the super chat. What's good, brother? All right. I see you, dog. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Yo, Vocab, he was talking smack about you earlier, bro.
Oh man, yeah, he's gonna take
smack on. It's crazy.
He's gonna take his super chat back. Oh man, that's funny, man. Yeah, appreciate it, Vocab, man. That's my dude right there. That's my dude, man. So cool. So let's go ahead and you know, take a look at wait, let me see here. I think what do I got next in my notes? Okay, yeah. And yeah. All right, cool. So let's go back to the video and Were you cool? Did you say what you wanted to say there? Or
Yeah. No, vocab here quotes Ezekiel. He says, they shall be a base kingdom. Ezekiel prophesies Kemet will never be a superpower again.
Oh snap!
Shots
fired. Shots fired. Yo, now vocab is one of them cats, man. So he's already made a name for himself among the Hebrew Israelites. You know what I'm saying? So what he decided to do is say, okay, Hebrew Israelism isn't enough. So I'm gonna find the next most belligerent, hostile group that I can find. So now I'm gonna mess with some Muslims, right? So apparently that's not enough. So now he's going to venture into dealing with Kemet. You know what I'm saying? So the vocab is just basically spinning the wheel, man.
He doesn't have enough targets on his back. You know what I mean? He collects targets. You know, so.
Oh man, next thing you know, he can be doing videos against like the KGB or something like that. Vocab is not playing with y'all, man. He's not playing with y'all. You know what I'm saying? Oh no, Theosis. Don't say that, man. Don't encourage him. Don't encourage him. You know. All right, cool. So, all right, let me share my screen here, man. All right, I can't remember where we left off, but we'll see where we're at. All right, here we go.
You can't just take it back the same way. Don't just wrap your Bible in kente cloth. It doesn't work that way. By the way, Heru is the one who spits on wounds which will heal. That's in the coffin text. Spell 1113. He's raised by surrogate.
Okay, wait. So that's the one that I wanted to touch on. All right. So coffin text. Let me get back here. Again, so of all the references that he's going to make, you know what I'm saying, the one that you can say, okay, cool, we see something there is the coffin text 1113. You know what I'm saying, where you do see. I'm going to go back to it. The coffin text says, be high that I may approach you. Be high, oh, you who are high. I am the one who.
You're not sharing your screen, bro.
Oh, man. Okay. All right, man. I tell you, I'm still a newbie, man.
It's all good, bro.
Okay, yeah. My bad. All right, here we go. All right, let's try it again. So I've got a quote here from Spell 1113. And as soon as I finish reading this, I'm going to put a link in the chat to the source where I got this from. I'll send you. You can get it. You can get the full text right online, which is actually pretty cool. But it says, be high that I might approach you. Be high, oh you who are high. I am the one Arpet the test. I think I pronounced that right. Since I know how to spit on your wounds, I see, for I am one who spits on wounds which will heal, and I will not oppose you. Okay, so that's one instance. So he's referencing, where you got this coffin text here, and you have that passage, in the Gospels where Jesus, spits on the ground and makes, I guess, some mud, I guess, and then puts it on the person's eyes, and ultimately they were cured of blindness. So he's making a correlation there, right? But again, is this something that the Christians should be concerned about? I would argue no. The reason why I would argue no is because it's no different than September 11th happening in 2001, and in 1945, you had this building that was run into by this plane. I'm saying the Empire State Building. It's the same kind of thing. Or the example that we gave with the Titanic in 1912, which 14 years earlier, somebody wrote about the wreck of the Titan, saying, and this about a book that was shipwrecked in the same month as the Titanic ended up being shipwrecked, and so forth. So it's that post hoc ergo propter hoc. In the absence of further argumentation from Jabari, the similarity alone between this spell here and what's recorded about Jesus, it just doesn't it doesn't really hold water. Okay.
Right.
Now,
and funny enough, right, when you look at this, he kind of unearthed a polemic in a way, because now the coffin text is written primarily for who? Who's the coffin text written for?
Oh yeah, dead folks. Yeah, I mean,
right. But specifically for the Nasut, for the Pharaoh.
Oh, sure, good. Okay.
It's for the elite.
Okay, yeah.
Everyone doesn't get the spells, right? Only the elite get the spells, so they can make it through the duat, so they can get to their version of heaven, right? The common man doesn't get spit on their wounds. Oh, only Pharaoh gets that.
Good point.
So Jesus, who does he heal when he spits? Just some common dude, right?
Yeah, good point.
Right.
Good point.
So in Kemet, it's just for Pharaoh.
Right.
But when it comes to Jesus, he heals everyone.
Right.
So it's actually a shot.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? So yes, there is a similarity, but the differences is major. It's an actual, you know what I mean?
Yeah, see that
it's the accusation against.
Right. And see, that's the elite. Is that the common pattern with these dudes, whether it be Jabari or others, is that they love to highlight a similarity, but they ignore all the dissimilarities. You see what I'm saying? And just they strip away all the things that are not the same and focus on that one thing that's the same. You know what I'm saying? Or similar. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Nah, man, that's the point you made. And I hadn't thought about that, you know what I'm saying, prior to
and that's this spell is for, not only is it just for the Nasut, it's for the Nasut who's dead.
Yeah, he's already dead. No, that's a good point. Right.
It's a wrap for this dude. He's using this in the afterlife to get to the afterlife.
Right.
Jesus is doing this very much alive as a human with the common people around him.
Right.
Huge thumb in the nose to the elite mysticism of Kemet, in my opinion.
Right. There you go. That's a great point. So I'm gonna go back to the video, you know. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, man. That's good stuff right there, bro.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Okay. So let's get to his claims. You know, actually, I think I just don't want to miss it because he was I think I'll pick it up in the right part. But he said that as a similarity that, you know, that Jesus was raised by a surrogate father. I guess that's supposed to be another point of commonality between him and Horus. Now, I'm just off the top of my head. I mean, I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here, but when it comes to Horus, I mean, you do have stories about Horus going around, you know, as a child with ISIS, and they encounter different challenges, some of which we'll talk about here in a minute. But I'm not aware of him being raised by a surrogate father. I could be wrong about that. I'm not aware.
I'm not aware of that either. I don't know.
Now, I do know that there are times where ISIS will appeal to Ra or Thoth, I'm saying, and different deities to assist.
Right.
You know, when Horus falls into various trials and tribulations, I should call upon different divinities to assist, and some of those divinities are male. But as far as being raised by a surrogate father, now again, there's like a whole slew of variations, I'm saying, of the Horus story, but I'm not aware of any text, you know what I mean, that indicates that he was raised by a surrogate father. So that seems like another reach to me. You know what I'm saying? I do some research on and come back, but I just wanted to mention that. All right, so I'm gonna put it back just a couple seconds. There we go. Y'all see? Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right.
My surrogate father. He's known as the King of Kings. Take a look at this stele here. Do you see this? This is in the Metropolitan Museum, not far from where we are right now. But you're actually going to see that every king had their name incised in this. This is usually called a Sarek. Say Sarek with me. And on top is Heru, because Heru is the King of Kings. That is what you are seeing. By the way, if you need a citation for that, you have to get a bus ticket. He died and was resurrected.
Do we want to talk about the bus ticket? Like,
yeah.
What was that, bro? What was
that was bad. That was bad.
That was bad, man.
Actually, before we do that, right, I decided, you know, a lot of times we think we know the definitions of words and we just assume.
Okay.
So when you said surrogate, right, I'm like, you know what? I think I know what that word means, but let me check, right? And it says here, a surrogate father is a man who takes care of a child when one or more of the parents are unavailable.
Interesting.
So God was unavailable? Right? Another definition, the second definition is a man who acts as a father figure to a child, usually when a father is not in the picture. So, I mean, God wasn't in the picture? I mean...
Well, so it seems like that's strike two right there, bro.
This is my son whom well please listen to him. Right? The Mount Transfiguration, right? It's like God was around.
He was around.
He was around. You know what I mean? So, and he was very much aware who his father was, even as a child, right? At the temple. When they left him during Passover and they came back, it's like, didn't you know I was going to be in my father's house? So even as a child, Jesus was very aware of God. So the surrogate thing doesn't really stick too well, right? I mean,
it doesn't.
I'm just saying.
Looking kind of suspect right here, bro.
I'm just saying.
Looking kind of suspect.
And that wasn't their primary source. That was just dictionary. That was just an English dictionary. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. Let me how can I do this right quick? I want to share something. I've got something in my email.
Oh yeah, and the bus thing, yeah, that was just in poor taste. And I feel like he was just being flustered. He was flustered because he felt like he took it personal. You know, he took it personal when Bantu got him with, "You're not showing us sources."
Right.
And the audience was asking for sources. And I don't think he was expecting that from the crowd.
Yeah.
And it threw him off a little.
Yeah, I think it was one of those situations where he probably, maybe this, I don't know, maybe it's a broader issue with the conscious community in general. Maybe they just feel like Christians aren't all that sharp. But you got to understand, like, you're dealing with a different kind of Christian nowadays than, the dudes they used to, and ladies they used to beat up on 125th.
Right.
Then, like,
it's not Pastor Pork Chop anymore. You know what I mean?
Nah, man. Nah. I mean, I'm trying to. There's a particular situation. I'm trying to think of how I can say this without. Well, put it this way. I know of a well-known church. You know what I'm saying? Pastor that I spoke with about Hebrew Israelites. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to call his name out because I'm not sure about anyway. You know what I'm saying? He was just telling me about how he basically there's some Hebrew Israelites that try to run up in there, man, and start sowing seeds of their doctrine. And it wasn't even the leaders of the church. It wasn't even like the men of the church that dealt with him. It was some of the women, you know what I'm saying, who these people that approached that, stepped up and was like refuting that doctrine. You know what I'm saying? The ladies came through and was like, yo, it's not fitting to go down. We spreading this false doctrine around here. You know what I'm saying? So, so it's not like, they weren't waiting for somebody else to come along. No, everybody was thorough with the word. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they tend, so I think I mentioned specifically about them being women because I think, and it comes out in Jabari's commentary, I think that they think that, some of our ladies is not too sharp. You know what I mean? And they, maybe this person thought they could kind of take advantage of, oh, no. I'm saying in the kingdom, there is no male or female. I'm saying, like, it's equality of personhood. And when it comes to that doctrine, anybody can get busy with you. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. So, I said that to say, maybe he thought that he could get over on this crowd, but it wasn't going down like that. Nah, not at all.
Nope.
Not at all. So he's actually about to make a claim here that I want to play, and then I want to break down a little further. All right.
Resurrected. A bus ticket. He died and was resurrected. We see Heru dying and resurrecting. This is not far from here. Go look at what is generally called the Metternich stele. I don't have time to go through it extensively, but understand that Ast was traveling with her babe, looking for spaces to live. And she was told, she was routinely told there's no room here. I know you thought you heard that story. I'm telling you the original. And then what happens? She actually finds that Heru is killed by his uncle. And so she calls to the heavens, speaks words into his ear, and he is resurrected. That's just one of the sacred resurrections we see, victory over death. I'm not going to even go into Asar right now. But that is called the Metternich stele.
All right, so let's talk about this Metternich stele. Does it say what this man claimed that it says? That's the question before us. Now, he just said that what happens here is that you have Isis and her babe, i.e. Horus. They're going from place to place, and there's no room for them. He says that they're regularly sold or repeatedly told that there's no room for them, right? And then he said, what happened? He said, what happens next? Well, Horus is stung by a scorpion or whatever he said, or dies or whatever. And she calls to the heaven to get help from him. Now, is that actually what happened? Well, let's take a look. All right.
But before you even do that, right?
All right.
The claim is also that the first recorded time that a woman and her child couldn't find lodging is in ancient Kemet.
Right.
It never happened until them.
Right. Ever, anywhere in the world. You know what I'm saying?
First people who couldn't get a hotel. First people.
I mean, seriously though. I mean, I don't know why. Like, I just don't know why people get over on stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's a trip. I'm sure that Mary is not the first person to be traveling around and couldn't find a place to stay. That's
I'm just saying, right.
I mean, come on, man. So anyway, see, I'm trying to be good, man. You keep starting stuff, man. I'm trying to keep it nice and crisp here, man.
Right. My bad.
Say, you know what I mean? But So let me go ahead and share my screen. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to put this source. I'm hoping y'all will be able to see. I might have to put this source in the description once I'm done.
You're not sharing your screen yet.
Yeah, I'm pushing the button now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm going to let's see. Okay. Ooh, this is my first time trying to share a tab. Let's see how. Oh, did that work?
Yes.
Okay, cool. You can see that?
Yes.
Oh, cool. All right. So,
can you make the words a little bigger?
I'm going.
If you can.
I can.
Nice. Good.
Boom. All right. Now this is a commentary. Now I'm going to share the link to that. I had emailed it to myself, and I apologize for not, being able to get to where I should, put it in the actual chat. But I'll put this in the description. It's available online. And this is from. Now I'm going to go ahead and tip my, show my hand right quick. I'm saying like a lot of stuff I get. You can get a lot of stuff from googlescholar.com. Googlescholar.com. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things, scholarly material you can get through there. I'm just gonna throw that out there right quick. So anyway, here's a from a referee journal here, and it's talking about the Metternich stele. Now, so this is a scholar describing what happened. Now he says Isis started out in the evening, accompanied by 7 scorpions, who had been sent to protect her and who had been sent to protect and guide her. And he gives the name of the scorpions: Tefin, Beffin, Meston, Donner, Dasher, and Blitzen. I can't pronounce them, James, man. But the 7, so Isis is being accompanied by 7 scorpions. But she's got Horus. Now, first of all, I do not recall 7 scorpions accompanying Joseph, Mary, Jesus, and Joseph, in that nativity scene. I don't recall that part of the story in the scriptures.
Well, maybe camels and scorpions are the same, I don't know, family animal group. Maybe I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So now Jabari describes, you got this woman and her babe, going along. They can't find any place to stay. It's like, you want to feel sad for her. And, it's kind of like Mary and Joseph. Let's see how this is actually described here. Okay. After a time, she began to see houses, at one of which a woman was standing, but the woman shut the door because she was frightened of the goddess's companions, the 7 scorpions. Can't say I blame her. But anyway, this angered the scorpions, and they took counsel about it. They put their poison all together on the spine of the scorpion Tefin, but the native servant opened the door for me, and I entered the house. This is Isis talking. But the native scorpion, the native servant opened the door for me, and I entered the house of ill omen. And Tefin slipped under the door and stung the son of the mistress. Immediately, the house became filled with flames, and a sign that the gods themselves were disturbed. It was a sign that the gods themselves were disturbed. And heaven sent down rain upon the house of the mistress, although it was not the season for it. And although she had not opened the door, for me, and her heart was very troubled, for she did not know if he would live. The son that got stung by the scorpion. She filled her town with lamentation, and no one answered her cry. And my own heart was troubled for the little one because of it, how to make the innocent one live. And I called her saying, come to me, come to me. Behold, life is in my mouth. I'm a daughter famous in her town for driving away reptiles with her spells, which my father taught me to know, for I am his own beloved daughter. Now, all right, so he described, Isis then proceeded to massage the throat of the child, saying, as she did so, poison of Teflon, come forth, flow on the ground. Do not penetrate, do not enter in. Poison of Bethan, come forth to the ground. And she basically just kind of recites that, and just does this spell here. But the point is,
Wait.
Yeah.
Whose son gets bit by the scorpion?
The lady who shut the door and wouldn't allow Isis to come in and dwell with them for the evening.
Right. So Isis didn't have her own child looking for lodging?
Well, supposedly I guess they were together. I guess Horus and Isis are together looking for a spot. You know what I'm saying, and they didn't have squatters' rights anywhere, so they're looking around.
So out of vengeance, because they couldn't find a spot, they killed the servant's son.
Well, one of the scorpions did. I mean, he didn't die all the way. You know what I'm saying? But
right, because she does the whole magic thing and brings her back.
But you do have an attempted murder. You know what I'm saying? On behalf, from one of these Scorpion Teflon apparently was real. Had a hot head, apparently. I mean, he just wasn't having it.
He was the shooter. He was the shooter.
Yeah, Teflon was the shooter. You know what I'm saying? And so, now, needless to say, it appears to me that there are some serious dissimilarities. And then, I mean, come on, man. I mean, this is what I'm talking about right here, bro. Like, I'm joking, but come on, I'm so serious right now, bro. Seriously, I mean, come on, man. They do this.
She was traveling with 7 scorpions, my guy.
7, yo. She was running. She rode deep.
She was gooned up.
She was gooned what? She was gooned up. Come on, man.
It wasn't that they didn't have a place for her. They were scared to death of her.
Exactly. It was like, man, I mean, come on, bro.
So it wasn't what there was.
It shut the door because she was afraid. I mean, come on, man. I mean, you got 7 giant scorpions running around.
Oh man,
bro, I'm not letting you in the crib neither. Come on.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, let's be real. Like, you be at the stoplight, right? I'm saying, and you see the dude that kind of look like he's not really in his right mind, and you make sure the door is locked.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And then she gets tight.
Yeah, it's like
she gets tight.
So I
go kill your kid.
She had somebody bumped off, man, early, bro. She was
and then she brings the kid back to life, right?
Yeah. So in the story, the way it's recorded is that apparently Isis wasn't directly responsible for Teflon's actions. Apparently, the scorpions got together on their own and decided to snuff out this little boy here. I'm saying, so Isis felt bad about it. You know what I mean? But that's when you got goons like that, man. You don't know. You got cats straight out the penitentiary.
Yes, yeah.
Man, like they
just came home. They just came home.
Man, I mean, you can't control what they do.
Right.
Man, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what it was. Isis was like, look, I'm not responsible for what happens right now, but she looked out. I mean, she came through with the spells and magic, whatnot, and revived them. You know what I'm saying? So that's what.
Wow.
I mean, come on, that's what I'm saying. So again, Jabari, this is an example of Cat stripping away all the dissimilarities and just focusing on like one thing. You know what I'm saying?
And there was a lot to strip. There was a lot to strip.
Yeah, obviously, you know what I'm saying? And so you want to make a claim about Jesus being, based upon Horus. I'm saying you want to amplify, you know what I'm saying, this one thing. You know what I'm saying, while at the same time you want to, just kind of downplay or just flat out omit, the rest of the story. Come on, man. That's not scholarship. You know what I'm saying? But I want to go further though. We still got more to say.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? We still got more to say about this Metternich Stela because he made the claim that on the Metternich Stela you have a resurrection of Horus. Okay, so we've already established that in the Stela, there's these serious divergences between the Jesus account and so forth. And I think I got a book. Oh man, is that right over there? Hold up. Yeah, you know what? Let me just grab this book. It's like right on my shelf. I want to show people just so
do your thing.
I'll be right back.
Go going on, everybody? I hope you're enjoying the breakdown. You know, it's funny when you just take the time out to just fact check. You'll be surprised what you find. You know, like because this is hilarious. This is absolutely hilarious.
Hilarious, bro. Hilarious, man. That's what I'm saying. So you got some dissimilarities, and again, you know, I mean, what if you don't take time to fact check these things, then what? You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, these claims just get thrown around,
right?
Just unchecked. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just addressed, and people can come away with some false notions. So, I'm gonna draw from that same source. I'm gonna get to this page here that I want to show y'all. This is a book called, hopefully you can see that, Religion and Ritual in Ancient Egypt.
Yeah, I got that joint. Yeah.
By Emily Teeter, from Cambridge Press. I'm saying she's dealing with a serious publisher. I'm saying that's another thing. You know, when you're doing research, it's not just enough to see that something's in a book. You know, publishers matter. You know what I'm saying? You want to look at who it's published by. You know, and it's not to say that it's the end all be all, but you know, if you have something that's published through Oxford or Zondervan or Cambridge, you know what I'm saying? You know, generally you're not going to have a bunch of garbage, you know, published through those kind of resources. You know, now it's not to say that everything's correct, right? But you know that the source has been, or that work has been
vetted, right?
Vetted, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? In a way that you can at very least have to contend with it. So, you know, once you deal with, okay, you're going to deal with, actually, let me make a claim first. I'm going to go back to this source here real quick. All right. How do I get back over there? So y'all can still see that, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So do you have a resurrection, in the Metternich Stela? Now, here's the thing. We have to understand what the Metternich Stela is. Okay. What is the Metternich Stela? The Metternich Stela, right, was used for medicinal purposes. You know what I'm saying? It had a number of spells, engraved on it. You know what I'm saying? That were used for protection and again for medicinal purposes. Okay. So just like many other cultures, you know what I'm saying, in the ancient world, there's this intersection between medicine and mythology, what we might call witchcraft, spiritual practices, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like there's going to be some overlap and interaction between medicine and those other realms or whatever. You know what I'm saying, or aspects, rather, of culture. So, likewise, that's what you have here with the Metternich Stela. It's what you call a SIPPI, or I think that's the right way to pronounce it, the CIPPI. Okay. Now, with basically, in a nutshell, I'm not going to go through all of it, but in a nutshell, basically what you have is there were concerns in the ancient world about natural perils, like, being eaten by a crocodile, or being, stung by a scorpion, or being bitten by a snake. You know what I'm saying? Like those are real life concerns.
Right.
So you see mythologies cropping up in conjunction with some of those concerns, right? So, in this particular, and that's what you see with the Metternich Stela. It's a medicinal stela where what they would do is they would recite some of the spells from the stela as they would pour water over the stela, right? Over the SIPPI, rather. You know what I'm saying? And then they would drink the water, or maybe put it on, wherever the abrasion is or whatever you. And the idea is that, between reciting the spell and, consuming the water that had been poured over this, spiritual object, that a person would receive healing. Okay. Now, in these spells that are being recited, again, they're inscribed on the Metternich Stela. But I just wanted to describe exactly what it is. It has to do with medicine. They'll pour water over it. You're supposed to drink it, and then it's supposed to cause the poison from the scorpions to go away. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're dealing with, right here, right? Now, here's what's the key: is that in the mythology, okay, Horus is, again, he's bitten by a scorpion. You know what I'm saying, in the Metternich. So as Jabari described, I'm saying they're going around. They're in this marsh area. Horus is bitten by a scorpion, and Isis cries out to the heavens, I'm saying, for assistance to heal Horus, to cure him of this scorpion bite. Right now, does he die from the scorpion bite? Well, first of all, let's take a look at what the Metternich Stela says. Okay, let me go back to, where is it at? Here we go. Okay. So, and again, this is my source here. I'll put this in the description so everybody can have access to it. And so he's basically describing, what's going on. He says, at this point, an instruction to the magician interrupts the story. So again, like I said, this is being used for medicinal purposes. So the spells actually on the Metternich Stela are like a set of instructions for what you're supposed to do and say to cure, the scorpion bite. So that's what he's talking about here. Okay. So and so he quotes what Isis says in relation to Horus being cured of the scorpion bites. He says, "Call out, may the child live and the poison die. As Re lives, the poison dies. As Horus will be cured for his mother Isis, those who suffer will be cured likewise." That's key. Think about that. As Horus will be cured for his mother's Isis, those who suffer will be cured likewise. Okay. Now here's why that's important. So according to the instructions that are on this Metternich Stela, what's supposed to happen is that in the same way that Horus is kept from dying in the mythology, the person who's consuming the water that's been poured over the Metternich Stela and is being recited over with these spells is supposed to be protected from death as well, right? So, Horus in the story, is basically plays the same role as the person who's supposed to be receiving this medicinal treatment in real life, right?
Because you can't cure dead people.
So. You can't cure dead people. Thank you. Exactly. You're saying they weren't reciting this over dead people. I'm saying if you were dead, then we're past the medicinal point. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're done with the medicine at that point. They got all kind of embalming rituals and all that kind of. They know what to do when somebody dies.
Right.
The very fact that they're saying it's spelled over you is that they believe that you're still alive and can be saved, right? And so in the story, that's what happens. You know what I'm saying? It talks about, and actually in Emily Teeter's book, you know what I'm saying, that I'm referencing here, she talks about how excuse me, that Horus he's like faint of breath. It talks about he gets his breath back, and I think that's what Jabari assumes is like, Horus having died and then come back. But really, Emily Cedar points that it certainly can be interpreted that it's more like a revival. I'm saying if you've been poisoned, then you can be short of breath and so on and so forth. And the idea of getting your breath back has to do with being revived. The poison's been removed, so on and so forth. So again, in the story, the child that was bit by Isis's scorpion, she massaged the neck, said a prayer over that person, and that child revived. Horus is bit by a scorpion. She calls upon magic, and Horus is revived. And so likewise, the person who's being recited over by the magician is supposed to have that same expectation, right? So my point is, given how they use the Metternich Stela, it's not reasonable to think that this Metternich Stela is referring to a resurrection. It was used for medicine, not revival from the dead. I'm saying that's not how Egyptians got down. They weren't trying to revive, just because you got bit by a scorpion, they weren't trying to revive you from the dead. They were trying to keep you from dying. That's the whole point of the story. Right. That's the whole point. So with the Metternich Stela, you do not have a resurrection. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to argue that you had, I'd love to hear it. You know what I'm saying? But you're gonna have to, demonstrate that there's more than just something medicinal going on here. So that's just yet another parallel, that I think, if he was going to have made a substantive point, I think this would have been, maybe, I guess he thought it was a dagger anyway. You know what I'm saying? But what we see is that, you don't see that same conjunction, right? Is that making sense? If we're making sense so far, I put a 1 in the chat. Just make sure we are on the same page. I think I lost my chat here. Hopefully I'm still. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. So that's the Metternich Stela. So did you want to say anything on that, or?
Where's the linkage, right? You got one person getting poisoned. Jesus gets executed.
Yeah.
Right? And the person needs magic to resuscitate the person, whereas Jesus actually gets killed and buried for 3 days, and he brings himself up. He doesn't need assistance.
He doesn't.
In fact, he tells us that he doesn't need assistance before he dies. Like, you will destroy this temple, but I will raise it up in 3 days.
Right.
So he tells you up front that, and he says, no one takes my life but me. I lay down my own life and I'll bring it back up again.
Right.
I don't need medicinal. I don't need any Heka. I don't need any Egyptian spells. I'm me. I'm good. I got this. Thank you very much. I'll be back in 3 days. Peace. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, man. Oh, shout out to MJ Jackson for the super chat, man. Much appreciated, my brother. Much appreciated, man. And you're right. This exposes the fact that it seems to me that Jabari's got a preconceived notion as he's approaching these texts. I agree with you. You know what I'm saying? He's seeing resurrections where there ain't none. You know what I mean? And again, I could pull out other texts as well. I mean, we're kind of getting late in the hour, but that are consistent with this pattern in their mythology of like medicinal usage of passages like these, where Horus is getting saved by other stuff from other things as well,
right,
crocodiles and things of that nature. But that's the pattern. You know what I'm saying is given the way that the manuscript was used, it's more reasonable to interpret that it's something that somebody's being saved from death rather than being having died and then come back.
Right.
There we go. All right, cool, man. So I guess we can finish up, man. I'm gonna go ahead and play the rest of this out. I think we're almost done with it though. I think we're almost done with it. Oh shoot. I don't know what it is with me, man. I've been jumping to hit that play button. Keep forgetting to share the screen. All right, here we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. I don't have time to go through all of this, but I want you to understand that if we clearly look at Mary really quickly, understand that she is known as the mother of God. Mutinter. And for that, all you have to do is look at the first chapter of the Reyupert and Hiruingir, known as the Book of the Dead. It's all throughout the book. Giving you a citation would be like reading John in the telephone book. It's all throughout there. She is Mutinter. She gives birth to a savior by a virgin birth. By the way, did you know that Ast and her sister?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you rock it on it because he didn't try that virgin birth the thing before, man. Shout out to Dana Murphy for the super chat. Much love, appreciate it. Thank you. But that daggone virgin birth, man, they keep trying to rock with that, bro. What's up with that, man?
I don't know, man.
It's gotta stop with that, bro. Seriously, man.
Like, where is it though? Like, okay, fine. Show me. Real simple. Show me in your text where you see a virgin birth. Just show it.
Anywhere. I mean, literally the whole Osiris narrative with, where he supposedly is chopped into pieces by Seth and he's pieced back together, and with the 13 pieces, they couldn't find the 14th, which was his
right. His phallus.
His phallus, you know what I'm saying,
and then when he comes back, he doesn't come back to the land of the living. He's the king of the underworld.
He's the king,
and he's green. He's green.
Well, he's been dead for a while, so I mean,
right. He stays
right. A little discoloration going on, you know what I mean?
MJ Jackson lies. Pretty much.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. So I mean, they keep on going, and actually, in one translation, I can't remember if you brought it up or who I was talking to, but in one translation, it's like she transforms into a bird.
Yes, I think it's a falcon.
Yeah.
And she mates with him, and that's how they. Yeah,
I mean, come on,
as a falcon.
Yeah, MJ Jackson. Check out MJ Jackson's channel as well. He breaks this down about how there's another narrative where Isis and she's promiscuous from her birth, according to Plutarch. So there's all different kind of narratives out there, man. They want to cherry pick the good ones, supposedly, but you gotta be consistent, man. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be consistent. Definitely check out MJ Jackson's channel, and also if you haven't already, check out Vocab Malone's channel. I see Sister Cherry was in here earlier. Check out her channel also.
Yep.
I'm saying, and let's keep it rolling there, man.
I'm surprised he didn't bring up the Immaculate Conception, because they love bringing that up too and conflating that with virgin birth.
Yeah,
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't go there, man. But again, you're trying to draw these parallels, and they flop every single time, man.
Right.
Flop, bro. All right, cool.
Sister were the beloved ones. The word for that Ast and her sister were the beloved ones. The word for beloved, doubly beloved in the Kemetic language, is Mary. There were two Marys at the resurrection of Asar. This is a copy family, a poor copy. The things that you hear and that you love are actually the echo of something that your African foreparents gave you. In many ways, we're the same. But it's time to round off the edges. Go back to the source. Return to the original. That's it. And if you did that, you could still say you're Christian. By the way, there would be almost no difference between us. I'm not saying you can't be a Christian. I'm saying you can't be the Christian you've been. That's what I'm saying. Because as long as you do that, you continue to pay homage and give power to other people. By the way, you should know, that Easter actually moves, right? You know that, right?
I think, well, I'm sorry, my fault. I'm gonna go ahead and play that out. I think that was the last parallel they called out. I'm gonna play this next part, but I think that might have been the last one. But we'll see what's up right quick.
It's not on the same day every year. Why does it move? It's the first Sunday after the equinox. That's what happens. So you have to understand we're talking about a solar deity. And if you want to say that this actually happened, at the very least, you need to tell your church that not to change the date. But there are people who know this story, family, and they are trying to keep it from you. Well, I am here to tell you the truth. I am here to make sure that you hear this story, whether you're able to entirely receive it at this point. That's fine. That's fine. If we talk briefly about Asar, because you're
okay. So I wanted to go to I think that was the last parallel they mentioned about Jesus. I don't want to kind of belabor that, you know what I mean? But you said something about Mary, and the term Mary, actually it does mean beloved. You know what I'm saying? That is true. But two things that are important is that number one, in Kemet, it wasn't exclusively applied to women. It was a term that was assigned to like individuals. Like there's a certain priests or whatever they could, you could be a dude and be referred to as Mary. And then it wasn't a name. First of all, it was more of a title. You know what I'm saying? M-E-R-I, or sometimes you see it spelled M-E-R-Y. Mary, you know what I'm saying, in Kemetic context, was a title that meant beloved. It was not exclusive to women. As far as the Marys in Scripture, it was a common name. Miriam was a common name, right, in Jerusalem at the time. So,
and also, what the Marys that he mentioned, is that just their name, or is there more to that?
It would say that. Say it again.
The Marys that he mentions in Purab Emheru, is it both of them are just called Mary? They don't have no other names. It was just Mary.
Right. No, actually, again, that's a title. It's not a name.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, again, I'm not going to accuse him of being dishonest, but I think that I'll say it's sloppy at very least. I'll try to be charitable here. I think it's being really sloppy in how he's treating these different terms and titles. I'm saying, again, Mary, M-E-R-I, in the Kemetic context, or M-E-R-Y, you're dealing with a title that means beloved, that it was used for both males and females, male deities and female deities. I'm saying it wasn't something that was exclusive to women, whereas Miriam, or Mary in our text, is a common name. Thank you, MJ Jackson. Ramses, Mary, Ammon. Are we to say that Ramses, Mary, Ammon, somehow fits the description of what we're talking about here, that crucifixion or the resurrection? No, But again, it was a common name, bro.
And like to MJ's point, right? It's not that Ramses is the one that's beloved. No, Ramses is beloved of Amun. So it's not even talking about him being beloved. It's like he's beloved by someone else.
Right.
Right. That's how I think they use that in the Purab Emheru. And the Purab Emheru is for who again? It's just for the Nesut. Mm-hmm. It's only for the Pharaoh and no one else. So only the king gets the two beloved women. That's it.
Apparently. Shout out to Antiochus. What up, bro? It's just I don't know, man. It's just a lot of sleight of hand going on. But all right, I'm trying to avoid being disparaging, but it's just sloppy. You know what I'm saying? I think that upon criticism, these are arguments that he needs to abandon if he is to be taken as an honest, seeker of truth here. Right. I'm saying these things have been called out. You know what I mean?
For years.
Years. It's time to let it go, bro. It's time.
Zeitgeist came out when 90 something.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually,
but this is where all his talking points come from.
Yeah, the actual slide. As a matter of fact, when you look at it, I think the actual slide.
Yes,
from the Zeitgeist joint. So it's funny to me when he's like he got offended You know what I'm saying? Like when I called it, it's like, fam, you got the actual slide, B. Like what do you
what you want? Right, exactly.
What you want me to do? What you want me to do? You know? So yeah, man. But I think I'm gonna play like maybe 10. I think it's like 10 more seconds here, dealing with these kind of claims, and then we'll go ahead and close it out.
2007 came out.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, 2007. Wow,
Came out 2007.
You know, it's been around. I mean, we're talking about with the zeitgeist, man. It's not even an issue of Christians, going up against it. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about people who even are just anti-Bible all day. You know what I'm saying? Will tell you that the zeitgeist movie,
right,
garbage. I mean, just hot garbage. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even just Christians saying it. You know what I mean? So
MJ's being messy again. MJ's being messy again.
He's bringing that smoke. MJ bringing that smoke.
He's being messy again.
He's bringing that smoke at all times. You know what I mean? All right, cool. I agree, man. I feel you. We can't let him slide, man. Jabari with the flim flam. That's what he said. All right. Let me see what we got here. All right, let me play this clip right here and see what's up.
You're going to see most of the connections in the story of Asta, Asar, and Heru. You know that Asar was resurrected. I hope you know that. I hope you know that he was also a deity of bread and wine. I hope you know. No, you probably don't know that. Take a look at this. This device is actually in most Kemetic tombs. What they would do is have a plate of soil that looked like the Asar, and they put wheat in it and let it grow in the tomb. They would close it. That's why it looks like it has grass on it. You ever been to the health food store and saw wheatgrass? Something very similar. I could show you images of Asar having actually the grain grow to his nose. I don't have the time to do that. By the way, he actually says that the Kemetic tradition was very close to the Greek and Roman traditions. Yeah, that's just because they stole it earlier. This is the one thing I'll leave you with. This is actually Herodotus describing their tradition. He says, Melampos was the one that taught the Greeks the name of Dionysus. It was from him that the Greeks learned to bear the phallus in honor of Dionysus. I will not say that what is done in Egypt in connection with the god and what is done among the Greeks originated independently, for they would then be of a Hellenic character and not recently introduced. I want you to understand that Kemet, your African nation, why are you running from it? Your African nation.
Okay. I think that was the end of it, like the connection they made, I believe. And if I missed some, I'll go back and take a look at it and just do another video. That's not a problem at all. But, just to address, again, I talked about trivial connections.
Right.
And I think that when it comes to, Asar, many people know him by the name Osiris. That's what you have there. I mean, Asar was, in connection with, fertility, not fertility, but like crop cycles and vegetation. There you go, MJ Jackson, vegetation deity. So, there's a bunch of those throughout, ancient cultures, and, they would be depicted, with various different, indications that they have something to do with, with crops and so forth. So, I mean, that's not anything, special with Asar per se, but the same cannot be said for Jesus. I mean, when you're dealing with the bread and the wine, you're not talking about some sort of harvest or anything like that. You're dealing with sustenance and things of that nature, but actually more deeply alluding to him being a sacrifice and so forth. Take the bread and the body and blah 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 blah.
Not to mention that bread and wine was pretty much a common staple of most dinners throughout the ancient Near East.
Right. And
it wasn't a specific delicacy of ancient Kemet. Beer. Everybody drunk beer, bro. Like
right. So Jesus is not signifying the crop cycles. I mean, you're dealing more so with the sacrifice and so forth.
Right.
As in the I was about to be a Catholic and say the Eucharist. That's not what I meant to say. Couldn't find a word. And then and like you said, I mean, it was a common food. And that's the thing is that people have to understand. Actually, maybe I'll take a second just to address this. Somebody asked the question a while back, like why did God need animal sacrifices, and in what way are those efficacious or able to affect some sort of, bring about forgiveness and so forth. And people say things like that all the time, but but the reality is it's no different than, the fact that you go to 7-Eleven and pay for a soda with a dollar bill. That dollar bill doesn't actually mean anything. You know what I'm saying? We're not on the gold standard anymore. I'm saying, but it's representative. You know what I'm saying? And it's the way I believe God can use. And I'm being real thin with it, but God can use symbols and things symbolically, or there's a number of different ways that He can bring about.
Well, I mean, the two main reasons is, one, it was something that they were familiar with, because God always worked with the culture so they could understand what He's trying to do. And two, it was a great symbol for the severity of sin. It's like, because of what you've done, somebody has to die. So instead of you, it's going to be this animal.
Right.
Right.
And why not? I mean, I think mankind, we have an overinflated sense of our own intelligence and sophistication, quite frankly. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, that an infinite being dealing with mankind that is broken and not functioning at its full capacity, to be able to comprehend anything that the infinite being has to say. I mean, of course, it makes a lot of sense for that being to dumb it down. You know what I'm saying? I mean, why not? Why not? You know what I mean? So, anyway, that's just kind of aside. But I mean, that's pretty much all I had, man. I mean, again, it's kind of a trivial connection between Asar and being a crop related entity. You know what I'm saying? I don't I think that's all that needs to be said there. I don't think I tried to cover all the claims that he made, more so particularly.
I mean, there's a lot. So
I think that we covered all. But if I didn't, y'all let me know, and I'll go back and I'll double back and get that too in a different video, man. But with that, hey, I guess we can get ready to roll out, man. I mean, you want to throw it open for questions, just to make sure we clear, or all hearts clear?
I mean, we could take maybe one question.
Maybe take one.
We go.
Yeah. Anybody in the chat got any questions? Anybody?
First come, first serve.
First come, first serve. I might have missed some. Well, actually, Dana Murphy's got one. Actually, it's already up there, but somebody else can ask as well. But how's any of this Kemet stuff practical for us today? I don't know. I mean, I think that he tried to address that to some extent in the third round when they were debating about who has the answer for today.
Well, he acquiesced the round.
Yeah,
he acquiesced. He said, "I don't. If you think you're going to hear a plan from me today, you're a sadly mistake." Like, he says that. Like, I don't have a plan for you.
That's true. Yeah, I got nothing for you. Yeah,
he actually said it. So
self-inflicted ill. So I mean, that's just what that is. Do you feel it's a waste of time to debate them again? I don't think so. I mean, I think that I definitely wouldn't say it's a waste of time. Here's what I would say is that I think there's different ways that we can go about engaging that community and just engaging people that are subject to these, same misconceptions and deceptions. I think there's different ways we can go about it. So in other words, I don't think we should put all of our eggs in like the debate basket.
Right.
Then we shouldn't lose sight of, again, Cherry Love was the one that asked the question. Y'all subscribe to her channel. But we shouldn't, get away from doing like the lives that Cherry Love. Cherry Love, I feel like she's live every day. I mean,
yeah, she goes in.
We shouldn't get away from doing those things. We do what works. You know what I'm saying? And when these debates, these opportunities open up, we take advantage of them and as a means to, bring truth and get the gospel out. We need more writing. We need more video content out there. Just engage the culture, man. There's lots of different ways we can do it. And I think as long as we're not putting all of our eggs in the debate basket, I think we're okay. Right. But I think it's one tool in the toolbox,
right?
In my opinion, that I think can be helpful. But I mean,
I agree. I mean, we definitely have to have a multi-pronged attack, right? And the debate platform is just one weapon in our belt, So, like what Adam said, we do lessons. Sometimes we get polemic, like how Vocab does in the Boom Boom Room, right? So, sometimes you have to go on the offense. It's not always defending the faith. Sometimes you have to go and attack.
Mm-hmm.
Something I like saying is, everybody gets knife work, right? But they don't get the same type of knife work. Some people get delicate surgery, and other people get the prison shank, right? And it depends on the individual. Right? Everybody gets cut. Right. Everybody gets cut. But how? and what manner does the cutting, is experienced, right?
Mhm.
So we have to be just faceted when it comes to defending the gospel. It's just not one way,
Right,
So,
right. And you see this in the New Testament. You know what I'm saying? You have instances where, folks are just preaching the gospel. And then you have instances where I'm thinking about in Acts where there was the woman. I guess she was like a fortune teller or something like that. And, she got delivered, or demon cast out of her anyway. And that, had an impact on the city in such a way that it made space for the gospel. So that was more of a, confrontation to open up a door. You know what I mean? Simon, the magician, in the book of Acts, they just straight bucked on that cat. You know what I'm saying? He was tripping. He was trying to get that power. And they was like, all right, bro, you got to get this work, from the Holy Ghost. You know what I'm saying? And then and it was done, you know what I'm saying? But that produced opportunities, to demonstrate God's power, share the gospel, and so forth. So I mean, there's different ways we can go about it, you know what I mean? So yeah, man. Well, so I guess with that said, we good, bro. We'll be back soon. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we definitely okay.
I mean, pray for our good brother Dr. Bantu as he prepares for this debate with Tazariak, and so that God will be glorified again, and that the gospel will be defended, and people will see the message for what it really is. That it's hope. It's a message of hope, a message of redemption, right? It's empowering, that you could become a new creation in Christ. Because that's what the bottom line is. It's not just to win the debates and who has the most compelling argument. It's we want people to be saved. At the end of the day, that's what we're doing. That's why we're on YouTube right now. That's why we're doing the breakdowns. Not because we just think we're amazing people. It's that we want to help and instruct and inspire people to know who Christ is.
That's right.
And unfortunately, there's so many obstacles to Jesus. And apologetics is basically gets the obstacles out the way so that people can have a clear view of the gospel, because that's what it's about. It's not about apologetics. It's about the gospel. And the apologetics is just a tool to get people to see the gospel clearly.
Right. Excellent, man. I'm gonna just address this real quick and then we'll roll out. But Terry asks, why do you think they keep on? I'll just put it on the screen. Why do you think they keep on saying Christianity and Kemet are the same, or that we copied from them? To a large degree, I think it has to do with lack of information. I'm saying, how many videos like this are out there? Like the one that we're doing right now. Terry said she won't ask anything else. That's funny. But how many videos are out there like this right now? You know what I'm saying? Where people are engaging in these ideas. We have to remember the conscious community. It might be new to a lot of folks, but it's really not that new. I mean, it's been around for a good little while now.
Right.
And if anything, many of the ideas have been around for quite a while. And the reality is, the church, by and large, hasn't confronted them head on. You know what I'm saying? There have been instances in which it's happened, but not really a consistent, concerted effort from a number of different people taking these lies down and addressing it. That just really hasn't happened. At least not recently. You know what I'm saying? If anything. So I think there's a lot of misinformation, both in regard on the Christian side of the house and with the Cometics. You know what I'm saying? When Jabari says that if you take away this and a third, will basically be the same. Well, that's obviously not the case. You know what I'm saying? Because like we showed in the last time we did a breakdown, he answered the question about what he believes. He thinks that everything is one. That there's no real difference between him and the podium.
It's the force.
You're right. That's pantheism. That's not Christianity. So even if we take away what he believes to be European, I mean, monotheism is different from pantheism. Pantheism, it means all things God. Monotheism means that there's one God. So, there's a lot of lack of information on both sides that we just really need to get out here and let people know. And to be honest, I mean, let's just be real. And I'm gonna leave it with this. I know this is gonna be distasteful to some of the people that's watching, but when it comes to the history in this country, what I'm saying, in the Western world. You have people of African descent who have, by and large, for the vast majority of the time that we've been here, been on the bottom of the totem pole with respect to this notion of value. You know what I'm saying? And who's valuable, whose history is valuable, who's beautiful, who's good. You know what I'm saying? Black people, dark complected people have been subject to kind of a cultural beatdown in terms of, the self, and I think that, one of the outworkings of that is that people are now looking to, their African roots or indigenous roots or whatever to remedy that problem. Now, again, that's why true ID exists, because I think that, you can't go just back to Africa. You got to go back further than that to the source of who we are, the source of your being, which is God himself. We're made in the imago Dei, God's image, so from a historical standpoint, that's an issue. And right now in this country, people ain't going to like it. But the bottom line is this, what I'm saying? There are real problems in the world. There's real oppression in the world. There are people being taken advantage of. And, there's a significant segment of those who name the name of Christ who have allowed their Christianity and their integrity, their Christian integrity and moral compass to be held captive by the political factions in this nation. You know what I'm saying? They have bowed their Christian integrity at the altar of whether it be liberalism, political liberalism, or conservatism, whether it be Democrat or Republican. They bowed their knee to these different factions. Yeah. And as a result, there's a misrepresentation, you know what I'm saying, of what Christianity really is that these other groups pick up on and then use as fuel to continue in their rebellion against God. So what we need to do is not only address this as a historical issue, but right here, right now, the church needs to be the church. We need to come out from amongst them. We need to stop playing games. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to stop being driven by the headlines in terms of what, who we're supposed to side with. And be like, look, we riding with Jesus, period. Right. The Bible says that's what it is. I'm saying wherever that moral compass drives me to go, that's where I'm going to go. I don't care about, what this politician or that politician, who they represent and what they're. No. I'm driven by the gospel, period. I'm saying that's what we need to be about. And we need to stop bowing our knee at the altar of these other causes and groups. And in doing so, we'll be better able to demonstrate the full integrity of the gospel and represent Christ more effectively. That matters. That's an apologetic. I'm saying in and of itself. We can get into that more so. But anyway, I think it's a big deal. So anyway, man, you got any final thoughts or?
Yeah, I mean, and because Black and brown people are so vulnerable, right, to that, there are factions and heretical doctrines that take advantage of that vulnerability. And they know there's certain buttons that they can push that resonates with people. And one of those, Cherry, is this talking point of Christianity being plagiarized, right? It's Christianity that hurts you. It's Christianity that stripped you of your value. You need to come back to Africa, right? You need to come back to Kemet. For people who feel like they've been hurt by Christianity, they resonate with that. It's something that they are emotionally attached to, and they keep using that because it's effective, right? What we're trying to do is make it ineffective. That is not the case. That is not true. That you are the imago Dei. The greatest identity you can have is being an imager of God.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do, and that's what you're trying to do as well, Cherry. Right.
That's
so
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we ended up, man. That was a unexpected banger right there. We ended out with an unexpected bar right there, man. That's dope, man. But you never know what's gonna happen when me and the BK Apologists team up. Hey, BK Apologists, man. Hit them up with your information, how they can get in contact with you.
You catch me on YouTube at BK Apologist. I'm on Instagram /BK Apologist. Well, it's BK_Apologist for Instagram. You can catch me on Twitter also as BK Apologist. I also make urban apologetic inspired t-shirts. You can catch me at TeePublic at the BK Apologist. And you can catch me on True ID as well from time to time. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man, and hopefully more often, man. Like I'm telling you, my man BK Apologist is nice with them t-shirts, man. Like he be quick with it, bro. I guarantee you that somehow, like this video right here has already been transferred over to a t-shirt on his website. I mean, we haven't even finished yet. I'm saying, I guarantee you, I put the next 5 paychecks on it. It's already there. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, man. But
thank you.
Y'all know what it is, man. I will be, Lord willing, getting back in the game in terms of the True ID podcast. Yeah, I ran into a couple things where I was had a couple different projects going at the same time where I haven't been able to put as many of those out as I would like. But I'm about to get back on that, man. So y'all be on the lookout. Definitely, if you haven't already, subscribe here to this channel. Much love to those in the super chat. You know what I'm saying? Hit me up on Facebook, YouTube, right here. Let's see, Instagram as well. Just Twitter. I'm kind of lazy on Twitter, but you can hit me up there too. It's Scott Franklin 7 as well, man. So love y'all. Oh, if you're interested in having me out, man, to speak, True ID apologetics at Gmail. That's TRUID apologetics at Gmail. You can hit me up there for booking or just questions or anything like that. And just if this video comes out and in 3 days I don't have the sources up that I talked about, y'all hit me up online. You know what I'm saying? It just kind of remind me. Sometimes I get distracted, but I definitely want to get those sources out there as well. I'm serious about this scholarship, man. I'm serious about the integrity of this show.
Yes,
so
sir.
I'll put that up there. And but aside from that, man, love y'all, man. And y'all know what it is, yo. As always, love God, love people, and take care of the things that God blesses you with, man. Y'all take it easy.
Peace.